All right, welcome to Friday Night Torah Study! Yeah. Grayson is funny. All right, welcome to our Friday Night Torah Study. We do this every Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the exception of feasts. If you like and subscribe on the channel, you'll be notified of upcoming events and changes. The only time it normally changes, as I said, is during feasts, so make sure you follow along. This is a Torah study service. Key word, service. So if you're in the room, we welcome you to be here. I'm sure if you stay, you will find something that you will enjoy or get out of it. But if you don't, just be polite and kind and just scroll to the next thing. But we do have our Shamish team in the room. It's a very interactive service, so we interact not only with the local congregation here, but with our congregations online around the world. So just because you're in the chat, don't think we don't have Mishpachah in the chat, because it's full of Mishpachah in the chat. And they are watching, always watching. Anyway, so tonight's Torah study is Devarim. We're in the book of Deuteronomy, which means words. And we're going to be reading Deuteronomy 1 through 3:22. There are 8 readings. So what we do is we have the readers come up, and I'll say a blessing over each reader. They'll read their portion. After all the readers read, I'll then do a blessing over all of them. Then we'll have Mr. Grayson Gardner come up and take us through the announcements, followed by Rabbi Steve coming out, conducting the Q&A, the Midrash, and answer any questions or comments you may have as he goes through bullet point style, the Torah portion for tonight. So I'm really excited to get started. We start the service off every Friday night with Erev Shabbat at 6 o'clock. We have dinner and a meal and fellowship together, read some liturgy, followed by the Torah study, which you're a part of down at 7:30. So if you're coming to visit, just be mindful of that. We start Friday nights off at 6 p.m., and we get to end tomorrow, the whole 24 hours we get to spend together. We do go home for a break to go to sleep, and then we come back. And then we hang out all day tomorrow, way after sundown, and we enjoy it, because we like hanging out and fellowshipping and being a part of the family together in the community. So with that being said, we're going to open up with prayer and praise. So if you're here locally, you can start lining up. If you're online, you can start typing in now. As I mentioned, this is a very interactive service. Just know we ask that you would limit your prayers and your praises to the most urgent or praiseworthy. And also keep in mind that if you get up tonight, please don't get up tomorrow, because everybody wants to get up. All right, so we want to give time to those who don't normally get up. And we'll start here tonight with Ashley. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Elder. What a week. I wanted to come up here and start off with a prayer that's already turned into a praise.
Amen.
I found out something I think it would be considered devastating that happened to me this week, and something that happened in my childhood that I discovered. And, you know, and the reason why is prayer already answered, because even though I was getting down into myself and just spiraling down in my head, you and Dad were available.
Amen.
And I was just like, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to bother him. I'm like, you even said you got Wednesday or Thursday. Is it counseling or is it Dad? And I'm like, it's I don't know what it is. And you're like, okay, it's a Dad thing. Uh-huh. And then I called Rabbi the next day, and he's like, yeah, just come on in. And I came in, and that was a very, very, probably one of the harder talks I've had with you guys. So Amen. Thank you for that. And Amen. Thank you to Mishpachah, which I'm sure they'll say tomorrow. But Abba is amazing, because I discovered that in the beginning of the week. I've had a very, very busy week that kept me distracted from that, because Monday, I discovered it. I didn't really react to it until later in that night, and then I had Tuesday and Wednesday to dwell on it. Amen. And if it wasn't for helping Mishpachah and helping friends and helping family, I would have been still dwelling in that thing. But because I was so preoccupied helping other people to come here and to do the right thing, time has passed. Amen. And Dayenu is no longer a problem.
Amen. Amen. Praise Abba for that. It's awesome. Awesome. Miss Betty, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. If you remember, I guess about a week ago, I mentioned my friend who became cancer-free. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, she got a call today, and she may have uterine cancer. Mm. So just asking for prayer, because she's really tired of this cancer stuff.
Amen. Amen. We can certainly do that. All right, Mr. Grayson. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So I just have a prayer request for the team that I coach. They have a tournament this weekend where if we win or come in second, we get to go to the next big land tournament, which is like where players from all over the world go to like one place and then compete against each other there. And so it would be like a very big deal and exciting and good for my brand as well as the team's brand and then just everything.
Awesome.
So just prayers for that could go well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are you coming up? Yes, she's coming up. Maria, Shabbat Shalom.
Hi. Just
Hi.
quick prayer for my mom. She's really sick. I don't know what she has, but she's been like in a lot of pain and her stomach is really hurting. So just prayers for her.
Absolutely. Definitely praying for you. Heather? All right, live stream.
Okay, from Torah Mom, life journey prayer for Michael's grandma. She's in the hospital, possible heart failure and other serious health conditions. Prayer for her as well as the family. That's from Melinda and Michael Willard. We have many unspoken. Just some general prayers for families, prayers for people's bubbles to be popped. And that's it. That's all we have right now. Just
Really?
Yep.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Saving them for
all right. We also want to keep in prayer all those that have reached out throughout the week. Prayers and praises and counseling. I mean, last Shabbat, I don't know if you guys, most of you remember, last Shabbat, it seemed like the praises was just coming and coming and coming. I was so excited and delightful to hear what I was doing in Mishpachah, and it's really exciting times. And here's Miss Marlene. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So I just want to give a praise to the Father because I really feel like we're starting to grow up.
Amen.
And I'm just really blessed to be in the office and to hear all the things and witness the things that are happening. And so I don't want to steal anybody's thunder about Sukkot and the registration numbers, but I'm sure they'll be said. And I just want to say that I feel like, Rabbi has been, smacking, to get people back in line. But I feel like this feast has really been a change, like a turning point for so many people. So many people have gotten their registrations in. So many people who normally, end up straggling with their payment paid in full already.
Amen.
So I'm just really wowed by what the Father is doing, and I'm excited to be in, to be a support to the ministry and to be one of the first people to see how the body is growing, and we're starting to become of one mind of Yeshua. So
Amen.
it's so exciting.
Amen. I think some of that had to do with the cutoff, but that's awesome. Rabbi got talking about you're going to cut it off. You're going to be short. You're going to be left out. So everybody rushed to get it done. So that's awesome. And Grayson will go over in the announcements. Really exciting, the growth that we had just since last week. Amen. Mr. Dean, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So praise, work's going better again. Another raise.
Amen.
But I think I'm fixing to change jobs, and I need prayer and decision because I have more than one to make.
Okay, awesome.
So, all right.
Praise Yah.
Thanks.
It's usually how it comes.
Praise Yah.
Amen. You ready? You got some more? Go ahead.
From Charissa Phillips, a praise report. Our daughter Shael is here.
Amen. Woo, Mazel Tov. They sent us the pictures. Beautiful baby.
From Lisa Hersey, praise that a car accident I had turned out to be a good outcome for all.
Amen.
Wake up smiling. Praise report. Thank you all for prayers for my son and the horrific child alienation court case. It went so good. She gets one more visit.
Amen.
From Pepita, praise Yah, my dad has been discharged from the hospital and no longer using a catheter. All family been healthy this week.
Amen.
And that's it.
That's it again. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get started with our Torah portion, our Torah readings. Rabbi Tom is going to be our first reader. All readers, you can come up. And we're going to have Mr. Ben White is going to open us up in prayer.
Abba, Father, thank you for allowing all of us to meet together and learn and study your word. I just want to ask you to lift up all the prayers, spoken and unspoken, and just help us to get ready to receive your word and learn what it is you want us to learn. And I just ask all this in your name and authority. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So if you're just joining us, this is our Friday night tour study. You guys can be seated if y'all are waiting for me. This is our Friday night tour study. We do this every Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the exception of feasts. And we start off the night at 6 o'clock with a Erev Shabbat meal, fellowship, and liturgy. Then we follow it up with the Torah study, which you're a part of right now, at 7:30. So tonight's Torah portion is Devarim. We're just going into Devarim, which means words. That's Deuteronomy 1:1 through 3:22. There are 8 readings. So we'll have all the readers come up. I'll do a blessing over them after they all have read their portions. We'll do a blessing over all of them, followed by announcements by Mr. Grayson Gardner, and then we'll have Rabbi Steve to come out and conduct the Q&A, the Midrash, and answer any questions. What you should be looking to get out of the portion as we read through is anything, everything that you can apply to your life today. And I don't just want you to glean out what you can get. I actually want you to do it. Start putting it into practice. A lot of times we're hearers and not doers. We need to hear, O Israel, and do, right? Shema, hear and do. Don't just hear. Too many of us just hearing. We're full of hearing. We need to start being full of hearing and doing. And don't be delaying it, because tomorrow's not promised. You need to be putting it into action as soon as you can. Amen? Amen. All right, Rabbi Tom is our first reader. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen. All right, Rabbi Tom, you're going to take us from verse 1 through verse 15. Yes, sir.
These are the words which Moshe spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan in the wilderness, in the desert plain opposite Suf, between Paran, Tophel, and Laban, and Hatzorot and Dizahab. 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. And it came to be in the 40th year, in the 11th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, according to all that Yahweh had commanded him concerning them. After he had stricken Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, the sovereign of Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth in Edrei, beyond the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moshe undertook to declare this Torah, saying, Yahweh our Elohim spoke to us in Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and set out on your way, and go into the mountains of the Amorites, and to all the neighboring places in the desert plain, in the mountains and in the low country, and in the Negev, and on the sea coast to the land of the Canaanites, to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob, to give to them and their seed after them. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am unable to bear you by myself. Yahweh your Elohim has increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars of the heavens. Yahweh Elohim of your fathers is going to add to you 1,000 times more than you are, and bless you as he has spoken to you. How do I bear your pressure and your burden and your strife by myself? Choose men, wise and understanding, and known to your tribes, and let me appoint them as your heads. And you answered me and said, the word which you have spoken to us to do is good. And I took the heads of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds and leaders of 50s and leaders of tens and officers for your tribes.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Tom. Next up, we have Sarah Beth. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Sarah Beth, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us from verse 16 through verse 28.
And I commanded your judges at that time, saying, when hearing between your brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with him. Do not show partiality in right ruling. Hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right ruling belongs to Elohim. And in the case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the words which you should do. Then we set out from Horeb, and went through all that great and awesome wilderness, which you saw on the way to the mountains of the Amorites, as Yahweh our Elohim had commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, you have come to the mountains of the Amorites, which Yahweh our Elohim is giving us. See, Yahweh your Elohim has set the land before you. Go up and possess it, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you. Do not fear, nor be discouraged. And all of you come near to me and said, let us send men before us, and let them search out the land for us, and bring back word to us of the way by which we should go up, of the cities into which we would come. And the matter was good in my eyes. So I took 12 of your men, 1 man from each tribe, and they turned and went up into the mountains, and came to the Wadi Eshcol, and spied it out. And they took some of the fruit of the land in their hands, and brought it down to us. And they brought back word to us, saying, the land which Yahweh our Elohim is giving us is good. But you would not go up, and rebelled against the mouth of Yahweh your Elohim, and grumbled in your tents, and said, because Yahweh was hating us, he has brought us out of the land of Mitzrayim, to give us into the hand of the Amorites, to destroy us. Where are we going to? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to the heavens, and we saw the sons of the Anakim there too.
Amen. Thank you, Sarah Beth. Next up, we have Gabby. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Gabby, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, Gabby, you're going to finish out this chapter, reading verses 29 through 46.
Then I said to you, have no dread or fear of them. Yahweh your Elohim, who is going before you, he does fight for you, according to all that he did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes. And in the wilderness, where you saw how Yahweh your Elohim has borne you as a man bears his son, in all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet in this matter you are putting no trust in Yahweh your Elohim, who is going before you in the way to seek out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way that you should go, in fire by night and in cloud by day. And Yahweh heard the voice of your words, and was wroth, and took an oath, saying, not one of these men of this evil generation shall come and see that good land of which I swore to give to your fathers. Except Caleb the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it, and to him and his children give the land on which he walked, because he followed Yahweh completely. And Yahweh was enraged with me for your sakes, saying, do not go in there either. Yehoshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in there. Strengthen him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit. And your little ones and your children, who you say are for prey, who today have no knowledge of good or evil, they are going in there, and to them I give it, and they are to possess it. But you turn and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. And then you answered and said to me, We have sinned against Yahweh. We ourselves are going up, and we shall fight, as Yahweh our Elohim commanded us. And when each of you had girded his battle gear, and you were ready to go up into the mountain, and Yahweh said to me, say to them, do not go up nor fight, for I am not in your midst, lest you be smitten before your enemies. So I spoke to you, but you would not listen, and rebelled against the mouth of Yahweh, and acted proudly, and went up into the mountain. And the Amorites who dwelt in that mountain came out against you, and chased you as bees do, and drove you back from Seir to Hormah. And you returned and wept before Yahweh. But Yahweh would not listen to your voice, nor give ear to you. So you dwelt in Kadesh many days, according to the days that you dwelt.
Amen. Thank you, Gabby. Great reading. Next up, we have Miss Amy. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Miss Amy, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, Miss Amy, you're going to take us into chapter 2, reading verses 1 through 12.
Then we turned and set out into the wilderness, the way of the Sea of Reeds, as Yahweh spoke to me, and we went round Mount Seir many days. And Yahweh spoke to me, saying, you have gone around this mountain long enough, turn northward. And command the people, saying, you are about to pass over into the border of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir, and they are afraid of you, so be on your guard. Do not strive with them, for I do not give you any of their land, no, not so much as one footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. What food you buy from them with the silver you shall eat, and also what water you buy from them with silver you shall drink. For Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He has known your wandering through this great wilderness. These 40 years Yahweh your Elohim has been with you. You have not lacked any matter. And when we passed beyond our brothers, the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir, away from the way of the desert plain, away from Elath and Etzion Gever, we turned and passed over by way of the wilderness of Moab. And Yahweh said to me, do not distress Moab, nor stir yourself up against them in battle, for I do not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Emites have dwelt there formerly, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim. They were also reckoned as Rephaites like the Anakim, but the Moabites call them Emites. And the Horites formerly dwelt in Seir, but the descendants of Esau dispossessed them and destroyed them before them and dwelt in their place, as Israel did to the land of their possession, which Yahweh gave them.
Thank you, Miss Amy. Great reading. Next up, we have Taylor. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Taylor, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, Taylor, you're going to take us from verse 13 through verse 25.
Now rise up and pass over the Wadi Zered. So we passed over the Wadi Zered. And the time we took to come from Kadesh Barnea until we passed over the Wadi Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of battle was consumed from the midst of the camp, as Yahweh had sworn to them. And also the hand of Yahweh was against them, to destroy them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. And it came to be, when all the men of battle had finally perished from among the people, that Yahweh spoke to me, saying, this day you are to pass over at Ar, the boundary of Moab. And when you come near the children of Ammon, do not distress them, nor stir yourself up against them, for I do not give you any of the land of the children of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the descendants of Lot as a possession. That was also reckoned as a land of the Rephaites. Rephaites formerly dwelt there, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumim, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim. But Yahweh destroyed them before them, and they dispossessed them and dwelt in their place, as he had done for the descendants of Esau who dwelt in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They dispossessed them and dwelt in their place, even to this day. And the Awim who dwelt in the villages as far as Asa, the Caphtorim who came from Caphtor, destroyed them and dwelt in their place. Arise, set out and pass over the Wadi Arnon. See, I have given it into your hand. Sihon the Amorite, sovereign of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and stir up yourself against him in battle. This day I begin to put the dread and the fear of you upon the peoples under all the heavens, who, when they hear the report of you, shall tremble and shake because of you.
Amen. Thank you, Taylor. Next up, we have Grayson. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Grayson, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen. All right, Grayson, you're going to finish off this chapter, reading verses 26 through 37.
Then I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass over through your land on the highway. I shall go on the highway and turn neither to the right nor to the left. What food you sell me for silver I shall eat, and what water you give me for silver I shall drink. Only let me pass over on foot, as the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir and the Moabites who dwell in Ar did for me, until I pass over the Jordan to the land Yahweh our Elohim is giving us. But Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, would not let us pass over, for Yahweh your Elohim hardened his spirit and strengthened his heart to give him into your hand, as it is this day. And Yahweh said to me, See, I have begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to possess in order to possess his land. And Sihon and all his people came out against us to fight at Yahatz. And Yahweh our Elohim gave him over to us, so we struck him and his sons and all his people. And we took all his cities at that time, and we put the men, women, and little ones of every city under the ban. We left none remaining. Only the livestock we took as plunder for ourselves, and the spoil of the cities which we captured. From Aroer, which is on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is by the Wadi, as far as Gilad, there was not one city too high for us. Yahweh our Elohim gave all to us. Only you did not go near the land of the children of Ammon, anywhere along the Wadi Yabak, or to the cities of the mountains, or anywhere as Yahweh our Elohim commanded us.
Amen. Thank you, Grayson. Next up, we have Jonathan. Welcome back. You're welcome. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Jonathan, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us into chapter 3, reading verses 1 through 11.
Then we turned and went up in the way to Bashan, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, came out against us, and he and all his people to battle at Adre. And Yahweh said to me, Do not fear him, for I have given him and all his people and his land into your hand, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, sovereign of Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. So Yahweh our Elohim also gave it into our hands, Og, sovereign of Bashan, with all his people, and we struck him until he had no survivors remaining. And we captured all his cities, and that time there was not a city which we did not take from them, 60 cities, all the district of Argob, the reign of Og in Bashan. All these cities were fenced with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a great many unwalled towns. And we put them under the ban, as we did Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, putting the men, the women, and the children of every city under the ban. But all the livestock and the spoil of the cities we took as booty for ourselves. And at that time we took the land from the hand of 2 sovereigns of the Amorites that was beyond the Jordan, from the Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon. Sidonians called Hermon Siron, and the Amorites called it Sinir. All the cities of the plain of Gilead and the Bashan, all Bashan, as far as Salka and Adre, cities of the reign of Og in Bashan. For only Og, sovereign of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the Rephites. See, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. Is it not in Rabbah of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits is its length, and 4 cubits is its width, according to the cubit of a man.
Thank you. Great reading. Appreciate that, Jonathan. Next up, our last and final reader is Jessica. Hi. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Jessica, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us from verse 12 to verse 22.
And this land which we possessed at that time, from Aroer, which is by the Wadi Arnon, and half the mountains of Gilead and its cities, I gave to the Reubenites and the Gadites. And the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, the reign of Og, I gave to half the tribe of Manasseh, all the district of Argob, with all Bashan, called the land of the Rephaites. Yair, son of Manasseh, had taken all the district of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and of the Maacathites, and called them after his own name, the Bashan of Hawoth Yair to this day. And to the Makir I gave Gilead, and to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave from Gilead as far as the Wadi Arnon, the middle of the wadi as the border, as far as the Wadi Yabak, the border of the children of Ammon. And the desert plain with the Yarden as the border, from Kinnereth as far as the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, below the slopes of Pisgah on the east. And I commanded you at that time, saying, Yahweh your Elohim has given you this land to possess. All you sons of might pass over armed before your brothers, the children of Israel. But let your wives and your little ones and your livestock, I know that you have much livestock, stay in your cities which I have given you, until Yahweh has given rest to your brothers as to you, and they also possess the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving them beyond the Yarden. Then you shall return, each man to his possession which I have given you. And I commanded Yehoshua at that time, saying, Your eyes have seen all that Yahweh your Elohim has done to these two sovereigns. Yahweh does the same to all the reigns which you are passing over. Do not fear them, for Yahweh your Elohim himself fights for you.
Amen. Thank you, Jessica. Great reading. And thank you to all the readers. Let's give them a hand. Great job. Now for the blessing after the Torah reading. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. All right, Grayson is going to come up and take us through the announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to start off by welcoming our guests. As children of Abraham, we'd like to exemplify his world-renowned trait of hospitality. And to our guests, while we will be doing our utmost to treat you as guests, we would appreciate it if you would behave as guests. And so everyone, if we're doing something you disagree with or you think we're wrong, we would appreciate it if you could conduct yourselves in a Yeshua-like manner. And for our guests, everything that we do MTOI as a ministry is 100% free and there to be a blessing to those who will find it. With that being said, we do 2 live streams every week, the first being our Shabbat service, which takes place every Saturday live here on YouTube, starting at 1:15 at the sounding of the shofar, and the service typically lasts for a little bit over 4 hours, going until around 5:30. The second live stream that we do is our Torah study, which is taking place right now. This starts at 7:30 p.m. following our Erev Shabbat meal that we do here locally, and this service typically lasts for around 2.5 to 3 hours and begins with the word being read and is then followed by a midrash portion with our rabbi, where he'll come out and he'll go over the notes that he has for the Parsha, and then the floor will be open for any questions and comments on things that were not covered. And so if you want to follow along with us as we go through our Parsha schedule, we do have ours available on our website. You can go to MTOI.org. Under the Media tab, you will find our Parsha schedule. And there you will find that we have the Torah, half Torah, as well as the Brit, all on a cycle. And our Brit is on a 4-year cycle. So each year we will be reading one of the Gospels and then the rest of the Brit. And so again, if you want to follow along with us, you can go to MTOI.org under the Media tab. And so while we have our rabbi to ensure that we're understanding the Torah portion at our level, we have our YMTOI, Parsha Pearls program, to ensure that our children are able to learn and understand the word at their level in a way that is both fun and educational for them. And so this does have its own website, ymtoi.org, and everything that you will find there is made by us for us. Nothing has been taken from somewhere else online. And this is led by our very own Rebbitzin Julie and her amazing team. This incredibly robust program is broken up into 2 different age groups. We have our Gem Seekers, or Katan Aleph, which is ages 5 through 8, as well as our Pearl Seekers, or Katan Bet, which is ages 9 to 99 plus. And we put 99 plus there because we believe that because of the immense amount of value that are put into these programs, that regardless of how many years you've been in Torah, that there's something for you to be able to glean from it. Each lesson includes child-friendly stories and lessons, lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, songs, and a snack that are all related to that week's Torah portion. And so these are posted on Sunday, so they'll be available for you to use throughout your week, as well as on Shabbat, as it is guaranteed to take up a fairly large amount of your child's time, and it is what we teach in our Shabbat school upstairs. If you are somebody who enjoys listening to the word read, we do have audio scripture readings available on our website, and this is done by our very own Shira Wendling. Shira's done an amazing job reading from Genesis to Revelation in her own narrative style, and for the first 5 books, she even broke it up by Torah portion. And so if you wanted to listen to next week's Torah portion in advance, you would simply need to go to MTOI.org under the Media tab, and then you should be able to access the downloads from there. We do upload on YouTube every weekday, so Monday through Friday. Starting with Monday, we have our first look, and so this is sort of our movie preview for the full teaching that will be posted later in the week. So this is powerful sound bites that are taken out and put together to really just get you into the right mindset to receive the full teaching that will be posted later in the week. On Tuesday, we have our MTOI shorts, and so these are 10 1-minute or less videos, which are really just powerful sound bites that stand alone on their own, and so we made them videos of their own, and so there are 10 of these that are posted on YouTube, as well as some additional clips that are posted on our app, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, and you would find those under Rabbi Trails. On a Wednesday, we have our full teachings posted in this current week. We had our In the Zone, and so these are questions from our Zone 1, and so these are, half of it's posted on Wednesday, and then the other half is posted on Thursday. Typically on Thursdays, we have our Afterburns, and so typically following each teaching, we have our leadership take questions to make sure that everybody received the message that was the message that was taught. And so people will ask questions and give comments, and then our rabbi will further expand upon things that people were confused about, and it ends up being an almost mini teaching of its own. And so every Thursday Afterburn is connected to that Wednesday's full teaching. On Friday, we have our In Focuses, and so these are 5, 8 to 10 minute long videos where our rabbi really covers the subject in just that amount of time, and so we pull it out and we make it a video of its own. And so if while you're watching this, you want to get the full context from the full teaching that it's from, there'll be a link on the side that you can click on if you are interested. Aside from YouTube, we do post on other social media platforms, including Facebook and Instagram. Our Facebook is MTOI Worldwide, with our Instagram being slightly different, as is MTOI_worldwide. And if while you are following those, you might as well turn the notifications on, so that way you can stay up to date with everything that we have going on as a ministry. An additional app that we post on is our very own MTOI app, which currently has over 3,243 downloads, which is very exciting. We could be celebrating the big 3,300 next week, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to. And if you are out there, I would highly encourage you to take advantage of this app, as it is everything MTOI all in one place, as well as a resource for our leadership to send messages to people in the MTOI community. And so in order to make sure that you don't miss anything, you're going to want to make sure that your notifications are on. And in order to do that, you're going to click on the small icon in the top right. And then you're going to go to App Settings and find Notifications. And then from Notifications, you are going to make sure that your general is slid to green. And once you are green, you should be good to go. An additional program that we offer as a ministry is our Torah Teens on Zoom. And this takes place every Thursday at 1 p.m. as well as 9 p.m. And this is led by our very own Rabbi Tom Mitchell. Rabbi Tom's done an amazing job creating a space where the teens feel like they can not only open up and connect with each other, as well as the Word, and as well establish how to have that proper relationship with a member in the vertical structure. And so this is a program that is for teenagers. So if you're below 13, you should not be in the room. And if you're above 19, you should not be in the room. If you're a parent and you're concerned about what your student might be learning, that's fine. Just make sure that you are off camera, as Zoom is a video chat format. And so we want this to be a space where the teens can be themselves, and if there are other adults in the room, they're going to be significantly more likely to edit or be self-conscious of what people are thinking of them. And so we want to keep that to a minimum. So just make sure you are off camera, and then once you feel comfortable with what your student's learning, feel free to step out of the room so that way your student can experience the class for themselves without you there. As an international ministry in an effort to serve people around the world while Shabbat where they are, our rabbi has broken up the world into different zones, with each zone having about a 2-hour-long question and answer time with our rabbi. And so the next one we have coming up will be on August 5th, and this is the Zone 1 local Shabbat Q&A. And so this will be taking place live during our regular service time here on YouTube. And so it'll be those 2 hours will be devoted to answering questions from everybody who's in Zone 1 who is able to attend here locally. And then the month after that will be for all of the people who live in Zone 1 who attend through our online service. And so this is on August 5th, and that will be the local Shabbat Q&A. The next one we have coming up after that will be on August 12th, and this will be our Zone 2 Shabbat Q&A. And so this will be taking place at 10 a.m. before the regular service time, and this will be taking place on Zoom. And so if you want to participate, you simply need to send an email to zoom@mtoi.org, and then an auto-response link will be sent to you, and you'll be able to access the room from there. So this is Zone 2, which means the people who have priority in terms of asking the questions will be from United Kingdom, Europe, Africa, and then the general time zones in that area. Those will be the people who have priority in terms of asking the questions, but everybody is more than welcome and encouraged to come and listen to the answers, as I can assure you that there is always a blessing waiting for you there. And I would highly recommend you come, even if it is not your specific zone. Next up after that, we have on August 18th, our Zone 3. So this will be on that Friday following our Torah study that we do here locally. And so that will be at 10 p.m. And if you are from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia, India, China, and Fiji, I believe are some additional countries in which we have people in attendance from, this is your Shabbat Q&A, and you have the priority in terms of asking the questions. But again, same as Zone 2 and Zone 1, everybody is welcome to come and listen to the answers. And so if you want to participate, you simply need to send an email to zoom@mtoi.org, and then an auto-response link will be sent to you, and you'll be able to access the room from there. And once you get the link once, you can use that same link for all of the additional zone meetings you'll be attending in the future. If you're somebody who's not comfortable asking a question in a zone meeting or by calling the offices, we do have a Contact Us page available on our website, as well as an email, questions@mtoi.org. If you have something that is time sensitive, which means if in the next 1 to 2 days the information will no longer be of use to you, I would highly recommend that you call the offices, as that is the best way to get in touch with leadership in a timely manner. Some important dates that we have coming up are on August 18th. We'll be having our Rosh Chodesh for the month of Elul, and so this will be taking place at 7:30 p.m., and so that will be taking place at the start of Torah study. Next up after that, on August 20th, we have our leadership meeting. And so this is a date that we should all be paying attention to, as we should be praying for our leaders. These are men that are taking hours out of their day, gathering together from around the world to serve the body and the Father as effectively as they can. And so we should certainly be praying for our leaders. The slide was wrong? Okay, the slide was wrong, and so just to be clear, it is August 20th will be the leadership meeting. And so even if you will not be participating, it is a date that we should all be paying attention to, as we should be praying for our leaders. On September 16th, we'll be having Rosh Hashanah. And so this special Shabbat/Holy Day service will be taking place at our normal time of 1:15 p.m. EDT. And next up after that, we have on September 25th, Yom Kippur. And so this is a Monday, and the service will be starting around 5 p.m., and we will be planning on breaking the fast around 7:40 p.m. And so if you are planning on coming and celebrating with us, just know that nobody in this room will be breaking the fast until our leadership has said that the sun is down and we are good to go. And so just make sure that if you are coming and planning on breaking the fast, that you understand that we will not be eating until the leadership has said that we are good to go. And so again, that is on September 25th, and this is a Monday. Coming up after that, we have Sukkot coming. And so we will be celebrating that here in Cleveland, Tennessee from September 29th to October 8th. And we currently have over 404 people registered, which is incredibly exciting. There's a lot of people out there who typically turn things in at the last minute. I am one of them, but a lot of us have done a great job of getting that in early, so I would just like to say thank you, because that makes job on our leadership significantly easier. And so if there are any of you out there who still haven't gotten your information in, just make sure that you do that as soon as possible. And if you know that you're coming, you might as well register, because we are very much getting to or past the point where we no longer have room for meals. And so I'm sure there will still be room in these services, so you'll definitely be able to come, but make sure you get those in as soon as possible. And so the Sukkot schedule is available on our website. You can go to mtoi.org/Sukkot, and then you'll be able to access that from there. I believe that is all for my section of the announcements. Please help me in welcoming up Rabbi Steve.
All right, thank you, Grayson. And for those who are watching, he does that in spite of me, not because I ask him to do that big fanfare. Just so you know, that's not something I asked him to do. Okay, so with the announcements, a couple of other things. So first of all, he mentioned Sukkot. I'm very excited about it, as we should all be. I'm also excited about the fact that, and Miss Marlene pointed this out earlier today, you guys are actually starting to listen. Almost all the local people have gotten their registrations in. There is growth there. Fantastic. All right. Now, there's still about 5 or 10 that are always late, and they're still late. But anyway, we'll see. But there's been a lot of growth, and we're very good with that. Now, here's the important thing. I've been saying this, and maybe you've been listening, maybe you've not been listening. All of you who registered, you've been listening at least, or you just did it and you're okay. We are going to likely max out on the dining. Okay? We can only fit so many people in this room. And we are literally within like 20 or 30 people of that spot. Okay? So we're running out of space. Marlene, I just spoke to Uncle Bob, and we got the table configuration is been worked out. But, so we know how many we can handle. When I say it's cut off, it's cut off. Now, you can still come. You just have to be on your own for food. We're not going to be putting you in part of the meal plan. So if you want to be a part of that, I would get your stuff in, because it's first registered, first served, okay? As far as being in the room for that. All right, because we are definitely getting close to maxing out the seating plan. It's for the meal plan. All right, also, the next Level Up class is on this Sunday, okay, for all of you in the Level Up class. All right, so from time to time, I may mention something to all of you, and it's not quite sundown here, but just so you have that, even though it's a Friday night, I'll probably mention it tomorrow anyway. Especially because we have so many of you that are actually embracing the idea of personal development and improving yourself. So if I find out about anything that's available, especially if it's free, I'm going to tell you about it. So the tremendously well-respected Tony Robbins and a guy who's been working with him for many years, Dean Graciosi, are putting on a 5-day free thing. Now, of course, the last day of it is a Saturday, so I think it's going Tuesday through, I forget what day of the week. I guess it starts on Tuesday, August 1st. So I guess that August 1st to Tuesday? I think it is. Yeah. So it's going from Tuesday to Saturday. So, of course, you wouldn't be doing the Saturday session, but you have free sessions that you can go to. Now, if you want to pay $47, I'm not here promoting them, then you could have access to those sessions forever, and you can watch them recorded. So then you can watch all of them at your convenience. I don't have 2 hours, and it's never 2 hours. He always goes over. All right, it's always more, he always gives you more than he tells you. 2 hours a day for 5 days. I don't have 2 hours a day for 1 day. So I will fit it in where I can. It's called OYF, Own Your Future. The letters OYF2023.com. All right? Some people have looked up Tony Robbins' programs and saw there's nothing free that he offers. That's true. This isn't one of the things he normally offers. This is a different program, has a different website. So don't go to Tony's website looking for this. It's not there. Okay? You'll see him and Dean on the homepage of this site. But I do want to encourage all of you, if you can. I think these guys are among the best personal development people out there right now. And so, and very few of them, that, other than these two guys that I know of, offer anything free. Not this much. I mean, they're going to give you probably close to 15 hours of free stuff over 5 days. Because they say 2, but they never end at 2. They usually go over quite a bit, all right? So, and I also would encourage you to pay the $47. It would make you more committed to actually do the program, and then you'll have access to it forever. You know, if you ever want to go back and watch it again or whatever that is, okay? Is there anything else on my list here? No. Okay, so again, and that'd be 2 o'clock Eastern time, I think is what time it plays every day during August. So you got a little time still to sign up for that. They are going to try to sell you to do the more expensive things. You don't have to. You can just leave it free and be okay with that. It's going to be on Zoom or on YouTube. I think the Zoom is only accessible to people who pay. Okay? Otherwise, it's on YouTube, and you'll get a link, you'll log in, and you'll just go to the link, and it'll take you to the YouTube. Because it won't be on public YouTube where you can just find it. Okay? You have to have registered to get to it. Okay? All right. This week's Torah portion, we are starting a new book, Devarim. All right. Okay, let me get a sip of water. All right. Now, okay, so Devarim. Those are the readings. I don't need that. So we've got one. I don't know why they do this, but they end like before the end of a chapter. So I always don't understand why they do that. But I'm not the one who did it, so we're using somebody else's stuff, and so that's the Jewish community for the last very long time, well over 2,000 years, has done it this way, and so okay, it is what it is. Now, so we're going to begin in chapter 1. So the way this works, if you're following along at home, I'm going to kind of hit on highlights, bullet points, so make this into somewhat of a teaching. And then if there's time, I'll try to leave time. I'll let you guys get your questions in. I might even let the live stream go first. So you guys should be ready on the live stream. Okay, now here's the thing, all right? I want you to understand something, because this is part of doing Torah studies and midrashing and that kind of thing. There's a problem out there. People think I'm the problem because of this thing, but there's a problem. The problem is ego and pride. And what I mean by that is this. Some of you believe that we're supposed to all sit around and read scripture and share our opinions. It's very common. Every Christian group thinks that. Most Messianic groups think that. Almost every one of them thinks that. And I think I may be the only one who thinks it's dangerous and a bad idea. And it's not just dangerous to people hearing, but dangerous to the people speaking, because if you're wrong and people buy into whatever you say, then you're in all kinds of trouble. But there are people that like the idea, and by the way, if you're part of any MTOI extension, don't be mad. We're going to be shutting down any and all of those kind of discussions until they have a trained person to moderate. Because some of you think, well, you just don't want people to talk. No, I want them to talk only when there's a trained moderator. Because that way, if you say something that the trained person thinks may be a problem, they can say, hold on, wait, let me explain that, let's redirect that, let's fix that, okay? Which you see me do all the time. I have watched other groups have their little Torah portion midrashes, and the teacher sits there and says not a word. And I'm sitting there screaming at the TV going, you know that's wrong, say something. Or maybe you don't know it's wrong. So some of you think, well, what's the big deal with that? Okay, so let me tell you the big deal. Number one, if you decide to share some insight and it's wrong, Others may think that your insight, the way you shared it, makes a whole lot of sense, or you're very convincing, and they're going to go follow and run with it, okay? So that could be a problem. We also have the problem that the people that are sitting in a room, especially if it's an organization, whether it's MTOI or some other group, and something is said, which, by the way, some of you think, why did you always interrupt everybody, Rabbi, and correct this and correct that? Because otherwise people watching will think I agreed with it. And it's very important that, since this responsibility is on me here, that anything that comes out has to be something that I agree with. If I put Rabbi Tom up here, if I put Elder Billy up here, or anybody else up here, if they say anything that could be misunderstood or anything else, I may come up here and correct that. Even though it's not necessarily that they were wrong, there's a second layer of challenge. What if it was right, but the way it was worded opened it up a problem to potentially be confusing? And I can promise you, once you speak, unless you write out every word, and even then, before you speak, things are going to come out of your mouth that you think came out perfectly clearly and still opened up doors to confusion. Or didn't get received the way you had hoped because of the way you worded it. Which is why I love our afterburn, after the teachings, those Q&A sessions, because it gives me a chance to realize whatever I said in some areas wasn't as clear as I'd hoped it was. And so people will ask. It gives me a chance to clarify. So I just want to let people out there know. I know this bothers all of you. You know what? Find each other and do your circle, kumbaya, midrash, whatever you do, okay? That's fine. Go find each other, sit around, impress everybody on how well you know Scripture and everything else. Because I don't see a single verse that says you have to know the Scripture inside and out and backwards and impress people with it. I got a lot of verses about you walking it, guarding it, doing it, remembering it, keeping it, right? Living by it. I don't see anybody reprimanded or attacked for their lack of knowledge. Now, by the way, don't say, well, what about the Bereans? The Bereans looked up what was said to see if it said what the guy claimed it said. And by the way, Bereans, all you guys who think you're all Berean, and some of you even put like word Berean in your name and all this kind of like a big deal, like you're a Berean. Why did the Bereans look things up? Okay, it's not because they didn't trust what was being said. They didn't have a Bible in front of them. They had to go somewhere, find a scroll in a synagogue or somewhere, and open it up to see if whatever the person claimed it said, it actually said. So they weren't even looking up necessarily if it meant what they said it meant, just did it even say what they claimed it said. Someone's going to say, well, according to the prophet Isaiah, well, let me go get a scroll of Isaiah. You just look it up in your Bible, no big deal. So the Bereans were willing to say, you know what? You claimed it. Let me just go see if it actually says what you said. Now, it doesn't say the Bereans had to agree with what the teacher was interpreting it to mean, okay? That has to do with whether or not you accept him as anointed or not. They were literally just checking, does it literally say what you claimed? Because I've had to tell people they claim a lot of things the book does not say. And they claim it does, but there aren't any verses that say what they claim it says. We did that with the divorce teaching. Well, God hates divorce. There's not a single verse that says that. I know a few of you just had a meltdown. In English, it says that. The book wasn't written in English. In Hebrew, it doesn't say that anywhere. And in Greek, it doesn't say that anywhere. But you want to believe that it says something. But you know what? The Bereans would have looked it up in the Greek and saw that it doesn't say it. Now, of course, the Bereans were looking up things only in Hebrew. There was no New Testament yet. But I'm saying that mindset would have been to look up and see what it actually said. All right? Just keep that all in mind. Because tonight we're going to do a study, and some of you think, well, how come it's just you doing all of this? Because it's my job to do all of this. That's what he's asked me. That's what he's asked me to do. And you either think I'm qualified or not. And you will have an opportunity to ask questions and make comments if I don't cover something that you may want covered, or if I gave an answer that wasn't clear enough for you, and that's great. But at least it'll be moderated. Okay, MTOI will not have unmoderated by qualified people these kind of open midrash discussions. It will not happen in MTOI. You go somewhere else. There's lots of places to do this, if that's what you're looking for. Does that make sense? Is that fair for everybody? Okay? We've had new people come here and say, oh, we just want to sit down, and they try to do this during the oneg after meal, the meal that we have after services. I'm like, fine, just everybody should understand, if it's just two people talking, no problem. You want to share your ideas with each other, no problem. It's in the group setting that it becomes the problem. Do you understand? I'm not saying you can't share your ideas with anybody. Please do. Just you should also know who it's coming from. Are they qualified? Are they authoritative? So whatever they say, at the very least, very most, you say, that is interesting. Okay, that's what we say about a lot of things. That's okay, that's interesting. Let me think about that. Let me check with Rabbi on that. How's that a good idea? Okay, how about that? Let's just keep that in mind. All right, beginning in chapter 1, in verse 6. Okay, and this is getting you guys warmed up for Sukkot. We're going to go through all of this all over again. Okay, chapter 1 and verse 6. You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. By the way, this is repeated in chapter 2 and verse 3 when it says you've gone around this mountain long enough. Because you have it twice in just these first 2 chapters. So there may have been, look, okay, no elder would have said this. You're supposed to be looking for what you're going to get out of this, like how it applies in your life, right? He said that before you guys started. I want you to be looking at your life in these verses. I think there may have been a reluctance to move forward and in trusting and obeying is why they were still at that mountain and going around that mountain, so to speak. Do you have that problem? In other words, are you stuck somewhere spiritually or in your life in whatever area because there's a reluctance to move forward? There's a fear, there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of belief, or a lack of obedience. Is it time for you to move on in any area of your life? I mean, that's the metaphor I get out of this, but also let's take it very literally. He's like, you guys, you didn't want to go in the land and all this stuff. He said, you've been waiting at this mountain long enough, let's go. Okay? You've dwelt at this mountain long enough. Okay, so he says, turn and set out of the way and go into the mountains of the Amorites and all the neighboring places in the desert, etc. in verse 7. So it's got this whole story going on. And we get to verse 8. He says, see, I've set the land before you. Go in and possess it. So, okay, so this is before they spy it out, right? So they went first. They're at the mountain. But you know what? They're at that mountain a long time. They waited for Moses and all these things. But they got comfortable. Anywhere you stay for a long time, guess what? No matter how good or bad it is, you get comfortable. Some of you need to move physically from wherever you live. I'm not necessarily saying to Cleveland, Tennessee. Maybe, okay? But some of you, I've talked to people over the years who had the place that they lived had no work for them. Actually, I've talked to people in the last few months who've had that problem, where they happen to live in the country they were in, not even necessarily in the States, but where they lived, there wasn't any work. So why wouldn't you just get up and move? I don't understand that, okay? Get up and move. And so be careful of that reluctance to go forward, okay? Because he says here, I've set before you the land. Go in and possess the land which I swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them, their seed after them. All right? And then in verse 21, he says, see, Yahweh your Elohim has set this land before you. Go up and possess it. Yahweh doesn't waste words. If he says something more than once, it's because there's a reason that we need to hear it more than once. He said, so let's understand, he's telling you 2 things here. What does he say? First, I've laid something out in front of you. Now go get it. Go in and possess. What does possess mean? Own. Take ownership. It's yours. Take it. He's offered you Torah. Torah's yours. Not yours to mess with, yours to live by. Like it's yours, right? It's for you is what it means it's yours. It's for you. The land still belongs to Yahweh, but he said, this is for you. I've given it to you to live in. It's for you. And by the way, if you don't act nicely in my land, I'll kick you out, which is what he did. You guys don't, you know, it's just like any other father says, you don't live by my rules, you're not going to live in my house. The land is my space. You don't behave right in my space, I'm going to kick you out. Some of you, can we address the elephant in the room? Can you people stop doing whatever nonsense you're doing with your adult children? Okay? What I mean is stop treating them like children. They're adults. But they don't act like adults. Well, that's your problem. You've been raising them like they're children. Let them go out, fall on their face, and do what they need to and learn something. Look, I'm 60 years old. I fell on this face a lot. I know it looks like it too. I fell on this face a lot. Okay? And I learned from that. But some of you adult children, would you just not be controlled by your parents anymore? Stop being influenced by them and controlled by them. Stand up on your own 2 feet and be an adult. I mean, by the way, this is an everyday conversation in the counseling sessions. Every day, somebody's having this problem. If I have 5 or 6 sessions in a day, at least one is dealing with this kind of nonsense. Either it's the parent with the adult child, or it's the adult child not having a problem with the parent, or some other thing. Look, your children are yours. Look, let's look at Yahweh. He created us, right? Doesn't take a whole lot of an active role with us, does he, for the first however many years? And then we get to be adults, and he says, look, here's what you should be doing. Now go do it. I mean, he's not there every minute, all the time, in our face, and he's not certainly answering every prayer so nothing ever goes wrong and we don't have any challenges, because growth comes through struggle, through overcoming adversity. So he says, I've laid out for you, let's take this to today, the kingdom that's coming. I've laid out for you the path to go there. He told him here in verse 7, turn and set you on your way and go into the mountains. And he gave him the directions to get to the land. He's given us directions to get into the kingdom. I know some of you who are still overcoming your Christian side or whatever, think, but I'm already in. No, you're not. Okay? Just making an altar call or believing in Messiah doesn't get you in. It's a starting point, okay? But there are expectations beyond that he has for us. He expects you to be Torah observant. He expects you to transform into Yeshua. He expects you to let the mind of Yeshua be in you. He expects you to walk out your own salvation in fear and trembling. He expects a lot of things of you. And these things which he shares with you, he wants you to possess them. Well, you're supposed to keep the Sabbath. Own that. You're supposed to eat a certain way. Own that. You're supposed to tithe. Own that. You're supposed to not commit adultery. You're not supposed to murder. You're not supposed to steal. Own that. You're supposed to treat your workers a certain way. Own that. When you're doing business, proper weights and measures. Own that. Right? There's so much Torah. He wants you to possess it. You ask a Jew, why do you keep Torah? He says, because I'm a Jew. I own it. I think that's what I was made for. That's what I'm supposed to do. You don't act like keeping Torah is a choice. You just didn't know it was available and you were supposed to do it up to a certain point in your life. Now you know. This is what you were designed to do. So he says, go in and possess it. He says, and don't be afraid. Okay, don't be afraid. In verse 21, he says, don't be afraid nor be discouraged. I know a lot of people that are afraid right now and discouraged. A nice double whammy, right? Or they're afraid or discouraged. A lot of people both. He says, don't be afraid. Why don't be afraid? Because if he tells you to do it, it means you can do it. Can we agree? When he told Israel, go in and possess, is there any doubt in your mind that if they'd just gone in, it would have been fine? No doubt, right? It would have been fine. Well, why are you different? You're not any different. He told you he said, there's the kingdom, go in and possess. Do the things necessary. And by the way, no doubt in his mind that you can do it. No doubt. But you have your fears and your doubts. That's the problem. All right, so verse 10 and 11, which we skipped over a little bit here, because we went from 8 to 21. He says, let's see. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I'm unable to bear you by myself, and Yahweh your Elohim has increased you. See, you are. This is Moses, talking about how the problem was. He goes, Yahweh's increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars in the heavens. When he says stars in the heavens, it wasn't literal. He's saying, look, if you look up at the sky, you can't count all that. Could you imagine trying to count 2 or 3 million people? Especially from a sort of like, two-dimensional sort of way. You're not going up above them, but you're just sort of like, you're on the same plane with them. And so you're not really going up in the air and looking down at the crowd or anything, because there's no way to do that, right? How are you going to count that many people? But he says, look at this. He goes, but the Elohim, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers is going to add to you 1,000 times more. 1,000 times 2 to 3 million. Wow. That's 2 to 3 billion. 1,000 times more. Are there 2 to 3 billion Torah-observant, believing people on this planet? No. There's 3 billion Christians on this planet. That's not a fulfillment of this. Okay? He's talking about those that are walking in and being the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As it says in Paul's writings, that you are children of Abraham and co-heirs, right? If you're Torah observant and believe in Messiah. Okay? So it's going to be 1,000 times more. Okay, verse 12. He goes, how do I bear your pressure and your burden and your strife by myself? See, elder, we're not the, Rabbi Tom, we're not the only ones that have to deal with that. Moses was dealing with it too. Pressure, burden, strife. So leadership chooses and appoints leadership, verse 13. So he says, choose men, wise and understanding, known to your tribes, and let me appoint them as your heads. Leadership appoints and anoints leadership. Okay? So you see that? Let's see. Verse 15 to 17. This is going to relate to Deuteronomy 17. We're not going to get there for a few weeks. It says, and I took the heads of your tribes, wise men, known and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50s, 10s, etc., and officers for your tribes. And I commanded your judges at that time, saying, when hearing between brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with him. Do not show partiality in right ruling, hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right ruling belongs to Elohim. And the case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. There's still a vertical structure. And that's where Deuteronomy 17 comes in. It says when a situation comes up that's too hard for you to judge, between plea and plea, strike and strike, or blow and blow, you go to the leadership, the judges, etc., to make these decisions, to make the right rulings. Okay? All right, let's see. Verse 26 and 27. But you would not go up. This is when he sent them to go and spy out the land. He said, but you would not go up and rebelled against the mouth of Yahweh your Elohim and grumbled in your tents and said, because Yahweh was hating us. Okay, let's focus on the key words here. How many of you own this? You have to raise your hand. How many of you go home and grumble in your tents? Own it. You grumble about what Yahweh's doing. You grumble about the leadership. You grumble about your spouse. You grumble about... How many of you are going and grumbling in your tents? I'm not even saying grumbling at somebody. I'm not saying when you go home and have a little strife with someone. I'm saying this isn't talking about strife. You're grumbling against something outside your tent. Okay? They were grumbling in their tents about something that was outside their tents. But they weren't grumbling outside to the actual person they should have been interacting with. They went back to their tents and they were grumbling. How do you do this? It's non-productive. Actually, it's negatively productive. It's harmful. All right, so let's not be doing that. Are you rebelling? And also talk about rebelling. Are you rebelling and grumbling? So all that rebellion that ended up coming out eventually was planned in the tents, behind closed tent flaps or whatever. Closed doors, right? We can say behind closed doors, okay? There's a lot of going on, and it was all going on in private. Not private meaning one person by themselves, but in very small groups, and started to spread. You got to be really careful when you sit around talking to people, all right? As a matter of fact, I would have you bite your own tongue if you ever are talking to anybody negatively about somebody else. This is what's called lashon hara. And we have people guilty of that. Actually, all of us are guilty of that at times. We have to be very careful with that. All right, and actually we're going to talk about lashon hara in the next verse. I'm going to read 28. Okay, verse 28. Where are we going to? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying the people are greater and taller than we, etc. This is what the result of lashon hara is. They said all these terrible things about the land, and the people bought into it. Okay, so the result of lashon hara is lashon is the tongue, hara is evil. Okay, the Hebrew. Okay, the result of Lashon Hara is to influence people's opinions and cause their hearts to melt. I mean, we've seen this done over and over again. And so you just got to be careful with that. Let's see. Verse 30 to 32 explains what the problem is. It says, Yahweh your Elohim is going before you, who does fight for you, according to all he did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes, and in the wilderness, where you saw how Yahweh your Elohim has borne you, as a man bears his son, in all the places that you went until now. Listen, dummy. He's saying, you've seen all this. Yet, he says, yet in this matter, you're not putting any trust in Yahweh. What is wrong with you, he's saying? You've seen, all of you own this. He's done in your life in tremendous things. Okay? He's not done. I'm not saying he's done tremendous things and now your life is perfect, but he's done tremendous things. Some of you, some of that tremendousness is just that you're here and alive, because you could very well be dead. Okay? You've done things in your life where you could be dead. Or should, and more importantly, should have been dead. Okay? Forget about could be. All of us, I guess, could have something happen. But you know the path you're on, you should be dead. Or things have happened that absolutely should have killed you. But in his mercy and his miracles, he's giving you more time. Some of you didn't even have a bubble pop till after that moment. Okay? Most of you. He says, you've seen, I'm saying the same thing to all of you guys. You know, I have a teaching called What Are You Thinking? You know what that teaching was about? It's about, I know when we read that all of these, especially in the book of Numbers, all of these whinings and complainings, and we sit there in our very cocky, sort of self-righteous way going, what's wrong with these people? What are they thinking? Yahweh just brought them out of Egypt, and he parted the sea, and he gave them the Torah at Sinai, and he gave them the manna, and he did all these other things. And he's looking at you saying, how are you so different? How are you different than these people? That's why the teaching, what are you thinking? Go back and listen to that. You know, what are you thinking? Because you're thinking, oh, well, you know, I wouldn't behave that way. Really? Go look in your own mirror and see how many times you act that way. Because you still don't trust him, even though he's done all the things he's done for you. Because he says he did all these things, yet, verse 32, in this matter you are putting no trust in Yahweh your Elohim. He destroyed the Egyptians, brought incredible plagues, split the sea. I mean, what? You had some battles, nobody lost, nobody died on our side, nothing happened, right? These are all things that happened on the way to Sinai. And yet in this matter, I sent you to go spy out the land, and you're not trusting me. Foolishness. All right, then it talks about Caleb in verse 36. Kalev, it says, except Kalev, son of Yefunah, he shall see it, because this is when he says that the rest of them aren't going. He said, but Caleb's going to go. Why? He says, because this one gentleman, he said, because he followed Yahweh completely. Interesting. He followed Yahweh completely. Completely, again, there's the word like tamim. He did it to the full. He made the effort. He did it with integrity. All right? So completely does not mean perfect, like never making a mistake. It means that he owned it when he made a mistake and repented and then made it right. If there was something they could make right. Caleb trusted Yahweh. With integrity, he walked out what he was told and did everything to the best that he could. Joshua, the same thing. Only two. Only two. All right. Then verse 37. And Yahweh was enraged with me for your sakes, saying, you do not go in there either. Some of you didn't catch this. Maybe if you've heard me over the years, you know. But you catch the part that Yahweh said, no, you can't go. And it says that Yahweh was enraged. But you might miss the point. It said, he did this for your sake. And some of you are thinking, well, how is that to our benefit that he punishes Moses? Because it's showing a lack of respect of persons. In other words, just because you're Moses doesn't matter. You did what you did, you don't get to go. It's as simple as that. And so he said he was enraged with me for your sakes, because if he changed his word, okay? Now bear in mind, we do have a discussion that we have where Moses is going to ask him, okay, well, you know, what do you think? Can I just go in maybe? What do you think? Okay, that's going to be the beginning of next week's portion, okay, at the end of chapter 3, all right? So we're going to get there, all right? But that being said, though, he's going to explain he was enraged with Moses, not just because Moses struck the rock. He was enraged with Moses because Moses now then started saying, hey, what do you think? Can I go in anyway? You know, I really like to go. And he said, I'm enraged with you because you're asking me to go against what I already said. I already said you're not going, all right? My children can tell you I'm that kind of a person. If I tell them no and they try to ask me, then they get some enraged. Not yelling and screaming, but I'll glare at them and say, don't you ask me to change my mind. I made my right ruling. Yahweh's the same way. As a parent, you guys should all be the same way. If you say, if you do this, this is your consequence, don't you take that consequence away. You make them have the consequence. Because they're never going to leave you alone once they see that you're going to give in. You know what my children never did to me my whole life, except the one time they tried and they learned that it doesn't work? They never, ever got me to try to back down or relent on a punishment. Never. And it's not because they were different. They tried once, and that made their punishment worse. And I said, you want to keep going? And they said no and never did it again. Because you know why? They believed me after that. Your children, if they pester you when you punish them, is because you've let them get away with it once or twice or more, and they don't believe you because you showed them that you're a liar. Give me that, I'm taking it away from you for 3 days. They have it back the same day. They don't believe you. Okay? I took something away from my kids for a week. They asked me once. I made it 2 weeks. They never asked again. And I told them next time, I said, and don't you ask. I'm taking this away, or whatever your punishment is, and don't you ask. That's your punishment. I'm glad that you're owning it now and you're sorry. Good. Remember the punishment. Don't do it again. Don't ask me to mitigate it. You were told up front, you keep going like this, you're going to get in trouble. And then you went and did it anyway. It's your problem, not mine. Okay? All right, Yahweh's the same way. I'm not saying it's the same as me. I'm the same as him. I'm trying to emulate that. All right? So I want you to see it's happening right here. Okay. And some of you are thinking, man, this is going to take forever. Actually, I go through chapter 2 and 3 in like 2 verses each. Let's see. Verse 38, still in chapter 1. Okay, it says, Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in there, strengthen him, for all, he shall cause Israel to inherit. So, support the anointed appointed, because he shall cause you to inherit, is what I got out of that. Because Joshua was the support. He is the epitome, like the poster child of how to support leadership, right? He upheld Moses' hands. And so, he shall go in, he says, strengthen him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit. Notice it says strengthen him, because he's going to cause. The people should know that. You need to strengthen your leadership because they're going to cause you to inherit. Not cause you because they're going to bring it to you, but because they're the ones who are going to be there constantly encouraging you, correcting you, kind of keeping you straight on down the path so you get there. Comes from the leadership. Verse 39. And your little ones and your children who you say are for prey, who today have no knowledge of good and evil, they are going in there, and to them I give it, and they are to possess it. Okay? So your little ones. So they're going to possess it. This is really important. It says, and you say they are for prey. In other words, you say, oh, but the little ones, they're going to be eaten up by these giant grasshopper people. I mean, well, we look like grasshoppers to them. Like these people that we look at grasshoppers to, and they get all this terrible stuff. He says, no. They've not done good and evil. They're too innocent in the beginning. They don't have a relationship with both of those. They're going to go in there. I'm going to give it to them. And then we have verse 43. It says, so I spoke to you, but you would not listen and rebelled against the mouth of Yahweh and acted proudly when you went up into the mountain. Okay, so, oh my goodness. So previously in verse 42, Yahweh says to them after they blow it, not going into the land, it says, do not go up nor fight with the people. I'm not in your midst, lest they smite you, etc. And some people are stupid, and they go, oh, no, no, no. Your children do the same thing. You tell them, I told you to do this, and you didn't do it, so now you're punished. And they want to run off, and they want to do it now. Saying, no, 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 you're punished now. You should have done that when I told you to do it. So Yahweh says, if you go, because he knows human nature, I'm not going to be with you. And you know what? They're stupid, and they go. And they're not just stupid. It comes out of what? It says they acted proudly. There's pride here. Oh, no, I'm going to impress you. I'm going to show you. But yeah, I'm not impressed already. I'm not in an impressing mood right now. You want to impress me? Do what I say. I said you're not going in. That's the end of it. They wrongly were thinking, well, maybe if we just go now, it'll be fine. He'll see that we are willing to go in. He said, no, too late. Too late. Now you got to wait. So that was verse 43. He said they acted proudly. Are you not listening, rebelling, or acting proudly? Doing what you want? Knowing that that doesn't match up with what he said? Are you? I think about that. And then it says in verse 45, and you returned and wept before Yahweh, but Yahweh would not listen to your voice nor give ear to you. See, some of you have a real problem with me. Certain things that I do leadership-wise. Because you'll think that people, are returning and weeping and stuff, and I won't listen. Well, he won't listen. Because why isn't he listening, by the way, when they're weeping and returning to Yahweh? Why wouldn't he listen to them? I'll tell you, it doesn't say, but I'll guess. Because were they sorry about what they did, or were they sorry because they got a consequence? The consequence made them sorry. They still haven't demonstrated, and after that moment at the mountain, going through the desert, they continue to demonstrate that they're not sorry about their attitude and their rebellion, and they're acting proudly, and they're grumbling, and they're whining and complaining. They're not changing from this moment forward. They're weeping and crying the way you do when you see the sirens and the lights behind your car. You're not sorry you're speeding. You're mad you got caught. Just being honest. I've had a few of those in my life, not in a long time, but I've had a few of those in my life, and I promise you, I never was regretting the speeding. I just was like, how did I miss them? And I get mad at them, and I'm mad at myself for, I'm not mad at myself for speeding. You do the same thing. You're mad because you kind of got distracted, and you weren't looking, and you missed them somehow, right? How many of you all of a sudden you see that cop on the side of the road and then all of a sudden you're hitting the brakes as hard as you can, and then they see your brake lights as you pass them and they know you were speeding? Okay? But you also know, had you been paying attention, you would have seen them. So who are you mad at? Yourself for that, not for speeding, for not making sure to get away with it. And this is what Israel's doing here. Oh, but they returned and wept before Yahweh. Yahweh wouldn't listen to them. You know why? I know you like to use this phrase, because he knows your heart. He knows your heart. He knows you're weeping because of the punishment, not weeping because you're sad that you behaved the way you did. Every time, and by the way, if you ever do this, I'll probably do it to you too. I don't care if it was my children, my wife, friends, whatever. If anybody ever apologizes to me, I always ask them, for what? You have to be able to tell me what you're apologizing for. Because if you're just sorry, like if you and I fight and you're just sorry we fought, that's not good enough. Nobody's happy they fight. You got to be apologizing for what you did that either caused or exacerbated or something the fight. In other words, you got to own what you did. Well, I'm sorry we had a problem. I'm sorry too. Is that all you're apologizing for? Because that's not going to work. Okay? They needed to go and weep before Yahweh and say, we are so sorry we didn't listen. And we want to do better. And we're going to repent. We're going to own it. Okay? I don't think they did that. And I think that's why he wouldn't listen to them. All right. chapter 2. And we're going to get through 2 verses here and then 2 in chapter 3. So we'll be very quick here. So live stream, get ready. All right, chapter 2 and verse 30. It's almost to the end of the chapter. This is where it just mentions that Elohim hardened his spirit and strengthened his heart. This is just a reminder of like when you see Pharaoh's heart being hardened. It's not that, Yahweh strengthened them to be stubborn or something. It strengthened the heart in the way it wanted to go. Okay? Pharaoh didn't want to let them go. Same thing here with Sichon, sovereign of Heshbon, would not let us pass over, for Yahweh Elohim hardened his spirit and strengthened his heart to give him into your hand as it is today. Because he didn't want to let them through. He didn't want to let them, let them pass. But when he saw 2 to 3 million people, he might have gotten a little cautious about it, and Yahweh strengthened him to do what he really wanted to do. He didn't cause him to do something he wasn't intending to do. Okay, this is not being instigated by the Almighty. But that's a phrase that matches up, as we see all through Exodus, okay? In the beginning of Exodus. All right. In verse 34, we see this phrase being put under the ban. We also see this in chapter 3 and we have it in 2:34 and in 3 verse 6. Okay, so we see this idea of being put under the ban. So what does it mean to be put under the ban? It's to be utterly destroyed. It's separated to be destroyed. Okay, in other words, you're not to have any of it. You're not to participate with it. You're not supposed to own it. You're not supposed to touch it. It's something that is to be destroyed. Okay, so in 2:34 it says, and we took all these cities at that time, and we put the men, the women, the little ones of every city under the ban, and we left none remaining. Okay, they were not taken captive. They were put under the ban. They were all killed. Okay, chapter 3 and verse 6. And we put them under the ban as we did to Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, putting the men, the women, and the children of every city under the ban. So you couldn't take them as slaves. You couldn't marry them. You weren't going to take any of the booty or any of those things, okay? But he said, but all the livestock, in this particular case, the livestock and the spoil of the cities we took as booty. But the people, no, okay? All right. Let's see, verse 11, one of those just interesting facts is that Og of Bashan, who is related, as you know, to Goliath, okay? Og had a bed that was 15 feet long. You got to be a pretty big guy to be in a bed 15 feet long, okay? Because you have, Og's bed is 9 cubits. A cubit is about 1.5 feet, so it was 9 cubits by 4 cubits. 13.5 feet was 13.5 feet by 6 feet. Okay, so it wasn't quite 15 feet long. 13.5 by 6 feet. That's a pretty big bed, okay? Verse 22 of chapter 3, this is the last verse. It's also the last verse of the Torah portion. Do not fear them, for Yahweh Elohim himself fights for you. Don't fear when you are doing Yahweh's bidding. He himself fights for you. Would you say it's Yahweh's bidding to keep the Sabbath? So then why are you afraid to tell your boss? You're doing Yahweh's bidding. Is it Yahweh's bidding to not do Christmas with your family? So why are you afraid to tell him you can't do Christmas anymore? Now, why are you afraid when you're doing Yahweh's bidding? Let's just own what it says here, okay? All right, so I hope that helped everybody. Go to the live stream. You got some ready ones? All right, good. And if you guys want to line up here, you can line up here as well. But I'm going to give them the first shot here.
I've got, the first one that it popped up is, I guess it says, did the Israelites call him by his Egyptian name Moshe or his Hebrew name Tovia?
Everywhere I read in the Tanakh, it says Moshe. So I'm not even sure where you're getting Tovia. Okay, in Hebrew it says Moshe.
Okay, from MTOI Odessa, who are the Anakim?
Who are because it says the children of Anak. The Anakim are descendants from the Nephilim, okay? And so that's as simple an answer as you're going to get out of me. They were the big guys, like Og of Bashan, okay? They were the big guys, the giants, okay, the Anakim.
Okay, from Janet Hoffman.
Janet got in either way. She's not here, and she's still getting in.
She's got a couple here. It says, Rabbi, Shabbat Shalom, Deuteronomy 1, chapter 1, verse 6. Are we stuck in our mountain primarily because of lack of obedience versus lack of belief?
No, you're not stuck in the mountain because of obedience directly. Your obedience problem is because of the belief problem and the trust problem. So you can't say something a problem with a lack of obedience versus belief. The obedience is an element that comes out of belief. Okay? So what you do, I teach this in the Level Up class as well. I mean, everything you do based on your beliefs. Everything you don't do or don't do because of your beliefs. Okay? Your beliefs generate that. If you believe something's safe, then you might try it. If you believe something's unsafe, you won't do it. If you believe something's beneficial, you may do it. If you believe it's okay, then you might do it. If you believe it's not okay, you might not do it. You see, it's about belief. Okay, they were going around that mountain mostly because it was comfortable, and the unknown is always, for most people, scary. Now, Yahweh should have fixed that problem for them when he said, I am going with you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go before you. So it doesn't matter if anything out there that's unknown is scary. I'm going in front of you. Okay? Look, think like a child. You're a child, and you're 4 years old, and you have a house with a basement, and you left something in the basement, and it's nighttime, and you want to go down and get it, and you're afraid because you don't know what's down there. But then you ask Daddy to go there, and Daddy goes in front of you, with you, and you're okay because Daddy's in front of you, because he's got you safe. That should have worked for them here, too. Okay? So, yeah, we're stuck around the mountain primarily because our head and our hearts are screwed up, not because of an obedience problem. Per se, the reason we have an obedience problem is because of the heart and the head problem. Simple as that. Look, there are still a lot of you. You guys are not going to like that. I say that because you're going to think that I have some sort of self-serving interest in this. There is the worst, least obeyed commandment is tithing. It really is. I hate to tell you that. In every congregation, much more than half don't tithe. Okay? Seriously, much more than half. Okay, you guys may be better than most, but I'm just saying, a lot of places it's more like the old 80-20 rule. 80% don't, 20% do. There's only one reason why you don't. This, a lack of belief. So your obedience slacks because you don't trust that he'll provide for you and that you can work it out and that somehow this will make sense, or that maybe for the first time he'll wake you up that your finances are jacked up and you need to fix them. Getting you to focus on money gets you to focus on money. In other words, your finances. All right? But think about it. Why don't you? Some of the men, why don't you wear your seat? Because you got a heart and head problem about what somebody might think with those strings hanging from your clothing. You got this little machismo thing going on. I'm not wearing strings on my clothes. I'll look like a whatever. Okay, look, you know what? It's a trust-belief problem. Do you understand a fully mature person walks around through life not caring what other people think? Okay? About anything, really. Now, I'm not saying I don't care like I prefer them to think well of me, but if they don't, I don't care. I don't wear things, I don't say things, I don't talk the way I do. Nothing I do is because I worry about what other people will think. I worry what he thinks. I'm married now. I might worry about what my wife thinks because some of the things I do may reflect on her, right? But that's about the end of it right there. I don't care what anybody else thinks about anything I do because I won't allow that to interfere with my doing. Because if you care more about what people think, you may actually let that interfere with what Yahweh wanted you to do. So the obedience gets jacked up again too. And then you're in big trouble. Okay, but think about it. The biggest things that people really struggle with are the very basic things. Some people out there, the next thing they may struggle with is feast keeping. Some of you think coming to the feast is an optional thing. I don't know. I read Deuteronomy 16. Now, I know you can say, well, it says to the men. Yeah, it does. So let's just focus on the men. Men, 3 times a year, you're supposed to go to Jerusalem. Well, the temple isn't in Jerusalem anymore. Well, if you think the pillar of cloud and fire is here, 3 times a year, you ought to be here. Well, I can't afford it, but I don't see a verse that says unless you can afford it. I mean, only if you can afford it, you know? So you guys have issues. Sabbath keeping, same thing. Some of you are like, well, you know, I don't, you know. So you're still watching the ball game, or you're still doing this, you're still doing that on Saturday. Or you still go shopping or whatever, you still work. Some people are still working on Saturday. Look, I was a guest speaker at a congregation that was, the leader of it was never in town. He traveled a lot. And the guy who really ran it most of the time, the head elder, he worked 2-3 Saturdays a month. And I looked at them like, how is that allowable? How is that possible that this congregation is being a Torah-observant, quote-unquote, Messianic Torah-observant congregation? It wasn't part of MTOI, but because I would never allow for that. But how do you allow for, I looked at him and said, you're the leader. We sat during an oneg, and he got mad at me. I said, how can you still work on Saturday? Because of all this nonsense. It's a lack of trust. You know, okay, let's approach it from this point of view. Can we all start off with admitting that before we found out the truth, once we found out the truth, we realized just about everything about our lives was wrong? Everybody agree? Okay. Can we agree that it also could be you might have wrong financials, wrong career choices, wrong friends, wrong... Think about those things. So you're thinking about, oh, I have to eat different and keep different holidays and have a Sabbath instead of Sunday. Oh, no. It's a lot more than that was wrong in your life. You may have the wrong job because this job is never going to provide for your family like you're supposed to. You may have the wrong, you may be spending like a crazy person that you need to fix that. You may have wrong friends that are only keeping you going around the wrong mountain. You may be living in the wrong place and need to move. Oh, well, you know what you sound like? You sound like all those guys that were talking to Yeshua, and Yeshua said, oh, well, you go ahead and, I got to go bury my father, fine. Oh, I've got this, all the whiny excuses when he said, you think you would do this too, it's funny. You think if it was you, oh no, I would drop everything to follow Yeshua, would you? Are you doing that in your life? I don't think I've really emphasized that in the past, but would you? Well, you don't understand, my mother's getting old and she lives in, my mother's 84 years old and lives in New York. That's 12 hours, 15 hours away. Okay, so what? I can visit her anytime I want. Some of you are thinking, well, I don't get that much vacation. Well, get a better job. Why do you blame everything on your circumstances? Fix your circumstances. Why do you let your circumstances control you? Well, because nobody told me that when I was growing up. Well, that's sad. Nobody told me either. I figured it out for myself. You know how I figured it out, by the way? I looked at everybody else and said, oh, I don't want that. Okay? I don't want 65 broke and don't know what to do with myself. Because that's what everybody was getting to that I knew when I was a kid watching. Okay? I also watched everybody come home from work miserable. They weren't feeling fulfilled. They weren't getting anywhere because they were basically spinning their wheels and barely just keeping themselves barely above the drowning line, just above water. You're stuck where you are. You have a psychological and emotional problem. And part of it is trust. You don't trust yourself. And you don't trust him. You don't believe in yourself. I've had somebody say to me, well, I realize that I'm single, but I need to find a wife that also could work because I'll never make enough money to take care of both of us. I should have slapped you when you said that to me. Okay? The person knows who they are. Okay? But I was busy with something else when it was said to me. I should have slapped that person right that minute. And say, never say that ever again. Why don't you believe in yourself? Well, I realize now I'll never make more than $20 an hour, $50, whatever it is. I'll never be able to take care. Why? I mean, look, how do I want to explain this? You can only see so far, right? But I want you to think of it, there's a book called Peak to Peak. It was written by Robert Schuller. I'm not a big fan of his belief system, but he wrote a good book for understanding how it is to set goals and go up in life. And basically the idea being is that there's a mountain range in front of you. And if you're standing really close to the mountain, you can only see the one in front of you, even though there's more behind it, and even taller necessarily, but if you're standing next to it, you can't see. You have to climb up to the top or the peak, and guess what you can see? Further. But then guess what? There's another big mountain in front of you that's taller than the one you're on, and you can't see what's on the other side of that one. So you got to go over there and climb up that mountain. So where you are now, no, you can't see yourself doing more than what you're doing. Israelites could not see themselves not being slaves, could not see themselves as free properly, could not see themselves making it in the land and surviving and everything else. I've accomplished so many things in my life. I couldn't see how it was going to happen. I just knew it's what I needed to have happen. And as you start going over each little peak on your way to where you're going, you'll understand more and more about what needs to be happening. But you have to believe that I can go to a smaller destination. I'm making $15 an hour now. I know I can get to 20. Good. When you get to 20, see 25. When you see 25, see 30. And by the way, pick something that can get you that far. If the thing you got only goes to 20, then you're never going to get it to 25. Just throwing it out there. And some of you are like all mad because you're 45 years old in a job that doesn't go anywhere. That was a dumb choice on your part. I'm not picking on you, own it, but you're not too old to fix it. And by the way, don't tell me you don't have time to do all that. Go figure out how much time you're on your phone and in front of your TV. Okay, or on your computer, whatever you watch stuff on. Because mostly nobody watches TV anymore anyway. They watch, subscription channels that they pay for. By the way, that's part of why you're broke. All right? You have plenty of time to do more things. You may find this hard to hear or hard to believe, but I'm always continuously looking for more things to do. Okay? Beyond, not just in the ministry, beyond the ministry, in addition to the ministry, to produce more value for more people. Because really, you want to get wealthy, produce value for people. That's how you do it. All right? The more value you provide, the better you get paid. You don't make a lot of money ripping people off. Short term maybe, but not long term. But bring value. Okay? All right, I don't know how we got into all of that, but it had to do with the question. Okay, next question.
Okay, from Janet. It says, Rabbi, do you think recording what Yah has done for us and provided a way in our trials would be helpful to strengthen our trust in him?
All right, so I want you to think of it from this point of view. Every motivational person out there says that gratitude and appreciation unlock all of the great stuff. So what are the things they tell you to do? And this goes into what Janet just said. You start off your morning with your gratitude 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or appreciation time. And that's where you praise Yah and remind yourself all the good things he did. You also then have gratitude for everything else in your life that, some of it you made and you brought into existence, or whatever. Just be appreciative and have gratitude just for the fact that you woke up and you have more time to work, more time to do things. Hey, I've got another day, I can keep going. Journey isn't over. But start off with that. So yes, writing things down that you can maybe read in your morning, what do I appreciate about my living conditions? Well, I have a roof. I've got indoor plumbing. Because maybe your house is not really great, but it's indoors. The air and the heat work. You're protected from the elements. I mean, you can appreciate things on a lot lower level than you may think. Instead of whining and going, I can't stand this apartment. But it's not outside on the street. Okay? I can't stand my car, but you have one. And it works. Maybe, but it works, okay? So appreciate even the things that are not as you would like them to be, but it's still better than what it could be. Appreciate that. All right? What do you appreciate about your spouse? What do you appreciate about your children? Your children, especially if they're still in the house. I'm not so much about the ones outside the house, because you should be, I don't want to say this in a way to hurt your feelings, you should be disconnecting from them in some levels. You should be now interacting with them on a very different adult level. No more umbilical cord, okay? I love the relationship that I'm developing with my daughter now that she's now out of the house, and my son, as we're going to start with now that he just moved out of the house. And we're going to have it on another level. Of course, these two children, I've already developed most of that relationship with starting when they were 16. So that by the time they went out of the house, I already had that type of relationship. I have stopped parenting them for years. I advised them, but I had stopped parenting them easily by the time they were 16 or 17. Which means I don't think of them like a parent. I think of them like someone who loves them more than anybody else in the world, who brought them into this world, who only wants the best for them. If they would only ask for help, I would help them. And I like spending time with them. And I said, hey, I called my daughter today. I said, look, let's have a little daddy-daughter time next week. But that's not so I can parent her. It's because I just want to spend time with her, right? You got to shift those things around. Okay, I talked to my son earlier today. He said the same thing. Maybe spend some time with him, on Sunday or something. What I'm saying is, but just to spend sort of that kind of relationship in an adult way, not in a parenting way. All right? And so you got to have something in writing to maybe remind you, then yes, do that. Do that. Because you know what? Counting your blessings, so to speak, and sometimes you'll leave a lot of stuff out, or you'll have a hard time thinking of them when things are like miserable, because sometimes you are miserable. Well, then have something written down to remind you that it's been worse and he's gotten you out of it. Okay? Especially if you can remind yourself that it's been worse. Okay? Because you could look at it and go, well, I guess at least I'm not there anymore, wherever there was, in your life. All right, next.
From Nigel Phillips.
Whoa. We have to congratulate Nigel Phillips on his new baby. Okay, I don't know if that's what he was going to say, but I wanted to say it anyway.
Sharisha was on here a little bit earlier during the prayer time. So Nigel's question is chapter 1, verse 34 and 35 connected to Psalm 95:11, or is there another place where he said/swore to this?
Okay, what was this verse? Psalm 95. Okay, hold on, let me pull that up. 34, 35, and then Psalm 95:11. Yeah, I mean, it's only these two places that I'm familiar with it. Psalm 95 says, as I swore in my wrath, if they enter into my rest, and this is also talking about the 40 years and the generation in the desert, so this is kind of connecting the same thing. So I would say that they're referencing the same thing. Yes. Okay? I don't know if there are other places. These two are definitely talking about the same thing. Next.
Sean Hoy, is there a difference to be restored between confessing versus being found out when it comes to sin?
Look, the advantage would be this. Confessing, don't call it confessing. That's all Catholic and stuff. Okay? The difference is between you openly owning without having to be sort of called out. Because that's the idea of being found out. Someone catches you and calls it out. Instead, you own it even if you haven't been found out. So simply, that would be the difference, okay? And as far as like when it comes to sin, look, if what you did was sin, you're either going to own it or not own it when you realize you did it. If you realize you did it before someone else realizes you did it, then you can own it right away. Sometimes you may not even be aware that you did something until someone actually finds it out and brings it out into your attention. The key is, are you owning it once that happens? In other words, how did it come to your realization that you had done something that would be considered sin? What you do next is what matters more than anything else, not how you came to know it, okay? All right, next. Because, okay, look, if you know that you did something and it hasn't been found out, that doesn't make it any more or any less sin. You still did what you did. Okay, so the fact that it hasn't been found out doesn't make it less. Okay, next.
From Lisa Hersey, so could the spies not interested in going in be similar to us being comfortable in our situations?
Yes. So 100%. That's one of the reasons why he said you've gone around the mountain long enough, is I think they got comfortable there. Okay, that's why he moved them 42 times in Numbers 33, right? Because he didn't want them to get comfortable. And some of you are comfortable wherever you're living and you need to move. All right? And if you all listen to my words and do that, I'm going to need to build a bigger building than the 600-seat one I'm building now. Okay? And so, yeah, you may need to move. All right, next.
Okay, from Lise, it says, Shalom. Chapter 1, verse 26, is this gossiping? Then they had a follow-up, is verse 27, is this gossiping?
Okay, so I did already answer that when I talked about the grumbling in the tents being Lashon Hara, okay? So Lashon Hara is gossiping. They're the same thing. Saying things about other people that either A, it's none of your business to share, and B, if it's going to cause harm or embarrassment. Okay? In this case, they were grumbling without a cause. There was nothing really to grumble about. But let's say I'm aware of that you did something, and you actually did it. If I share that, it's still a Lashon Hara. It's not for me to share necessarily if it's going to bring you embarrassment, if it's yours to share. Okay? When I say did something, let's say you did something embarrassing. Okay? That's anything that would cause a person to see the other person in a negative light unnecessarily. It's just you wanting people to see that person that way. This grumbling had a purpose. The grumbling was to have everybody see Moses and Aaron and the leadership in a negative way. All right? Next.
From Shaylin Iglesias says, Rabbi, do we get comfortable in pain too?
What is the purpose of pain? It's feedback, right? It's to let you know there's something not right physically, emotionally, or something, okay? That you're experiencing something that you're recognizing is not desirable. Physical pain means something is going wrong in the body, okay? It's like your car starts making a strange noise. Something might not be right. Or a light comes on the dashboard letting you know something may not be right. And then you don't always know what it is. Sometimes you have to go get it diagnosed, etc. Same thing with the body. So then there could be emotional pain. And by something not right there, maybe you're not dealing with something like you should. Maybe you're not processing it like you should. Maybe you're having a real challenge in knowing what to do with this emotional pain. Generationally, I keep saying this, we're getting weaker and weaker and weaker psycho-emotionally. Okay? And by the way, it doesn't say in Matthew that the weak will inherit the earth. It says the meek will inherit the earth, which is quiet strength. And so those who are weak experience more pain. Those who are strong work through the pain, fix the pain, deal with the pain, etc. All right? I saw this meme. I probably saw it on TikTok or somewhere, but I saw this meme showing a gentleman from, like the 70s and 80s walking through a door frame, bangs into it by accident, catches it funny, and just ignores it. Then from the 2000s or later, bangs into the door, it's like, oh. Then the next one is from today, hits the door, falls down, starts crying, whining, ah. But that's all about the emotional strength, though. Nothing fazed us Today, everything phases them, even things that like didn't happen, but they think it happened or they're worried it's going to happen. You know. I mean, I literally always had scabs somewhere because I always was falling, and we had concrete everywhere. We didn't have grass everywhere, and we were always, skinning. There were holes in all my jeans and the knees and everything from constantly tearing them on the concrete, and my scabs had scabs. And you know what? I didn't care. My mother wasn't worried about it. She had the solution. She put patches on it to embarrass me. So, and the patches never matched. Oh, it's blue jeans, Maybe you'll stop tearing your pants. Nowadays, you tear your pants, you expect your parents to go buy you a new one right away. No. Or you tear them on purpose because it's fashion. And you guys, you know what? You get no street cred with me because you didn't tear them by falling on concrete. Okay? You want to put holes in your pants? Go wrestle with somebody or play football in the street, tackle football on street. Okay? That's what we did. Or full contact basketball on the street, because we did that. No autopsy, no foul. Okay? If it wasn't broken and you could still play, it was fair. All right? Because people would say foul, and you'd be like, what? So then you realize that wasn't going to work. So, yes, I think we get comfortable in our pain too. But don't ignore pain. Pain is a feedback loop, okay? You need to ask the question, what's causing the pain? Is it something that I should be fixing, dealing with, or maybe I do need to ignore it. Maybe something I just have to tolerate because it's a pain that won't go away, all right? They don't say anywhere that Jacob, when he had his hip popped out, which, by the way, is one of the more painful things you could have happen in your life, that it ever was popped back. So if it was never popped back, he was in pain his whole life, okay? Because having a hip out of place is an extremely painful thing. I don't have that experience, but I know other people have had it. And they tell me it is not. It's pain. Okay? So, next question.
That's all we have online, Rabbi. But I got one. From what you just said, then, it's for the younger, I guess, generations and things. Is it us or some of the parents are doing the disservice, because now when the kid falls down, we're immediately trying to pick them up. We're immediately trying to put a Band-Aid on that scratch. So it's just as much as ours. The reason I say it is I'm working over in this house, in this neighborhood over here on the other side of Cleveland, and it's just impressive because it's just a group of young boys out there. They're always outside on their bikes with ramps, fighting and just sticks. They're just doing everything that I always did. I'm like, you guys, you just don't realize how made you got it right now. So.
Okay, no, absolutely. And Ben, whatever it is, his mic is coming back with the same feedback I used to. So we'll have to figure that out. It's got that low sort of feedback. Anyway, look, children respond based on how you respond. Okay? Child falls down and you walk over and go, hey, no problem. Oh, that's cool, no big deal. Brush it off. Now, if you freak out, they're going to think it's something to freak out. You hear that, all you moms, especially? And you start teaching the children that some little dumb thing that this was no big deal, and you flip out like somehow they're like about to go to the hospital. Like, they got a little scratch on their knee and you act like they're like bleeding out, okay? You can't, see, they learn from your emotional weakness, and then you freak out and panic. And so the child feeds off of that, okay? We overreact to everything, and so then they're going to overreact to everything. I also think it's a generational thing. And we talked about this, I think, at Rosh Chodesh, about sort of the vibrational part of everything. And the world is feeding off of a vibrational signal of weakness, okay? That's why there seems to be this completely unbelievably irrational but tremendous volume of anxiety and depression and self-destructive behavior, more than I've ever heard of in my lifetime. Okay? Maybe children, I don't know. But you could tell me anybody who's like, I'm a boomer, so last year or two from being a boomer. But anyway, anybody from born in the 60s, maybe in early 70s, do you remember friends cutting themselves? Do you remember friends killing themselves? Oh yeah, there was that one incident with somebody, and it was like the biggest deal because nobody was doing these things. Okay? Certainly not because somebody said something mean to me. People say something mean to me every day. You were in high school, you were in elementary school, people said something mean to you every day, and you said it right back. Okay? And you said it right back. And you learned how to be tough and deal with those things. But we didn't have that. Now, I'm not picking on it's their fault. There's something degeneratively happening emotionally. And I'm watching a lot of people in their 30s and 40s just as bad. Because somehow they're tapping into the same thing. Okay? And it's very concerning to me because that's not what you need to get into the kingdom. You cannot be overwhelmed and overrun by anxiety and fear and all this emotional weakness. You know, some of you think, well, I don't know what to do. Well, have you even tried? How many courses have you taken that go deal with your issue? How many books have you read to deal with your issue? How many people have you gone to that have overcome the issue and talked to them and asked them how they did it? You've done none of that, most of you. All right? And so, anyway, Ashley.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Before I ask my question, I wanted to sincerely thank you for not giving me the no I wanted. That was especially with this, I'm getting a lot out of this, but I don't think you guys understand what this man does. He doesn't give you a false hope. He doesn't give you what you want. He gives you what you need so you can take that and learn from it and just move on. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is chapter 2, verse 9 and chapter 3, verse 22. I think I'm not getting the point. Because it seems like those two are contradictory, or is that just me?
No. Okay, so he said that he didn't want them to bother Moab, okay, in this particular thing, and he had reasons, okay? He said, do not distress Moab, nor stir yourself up against them in battle, for I did not give you any of their land as a possession, because I've already given it to the descendants of Lot. So in other words, he'd already decided that land was going to be, it's already been addressed. It's already been given. Now, the rest of these guys, you're going to go in, take everything, and I'm going to go in front of you and not to worry about it. So he's simply saying, you're going to do that here, but you're going to leave this one alone. Not because going against this one you'll lose or this or that. He's just saying, I don't want you to do it. I've already promised that to somebody. Okay?
In life, then, how do you know which one it is? And you know what I'm talking about with this, I hope you do. How do I'm going to go do what I think I'm supposed to do by Yahweh and by you, but how do I know at the end of the day that's truly what he wants?
Okay. All right. No, you're fine. There was something that came up the other day, and I think I'm going to incorporate it in here to some degree. People ask often if something is Yahweh's will. Okay? That's kind of what you're asking. And the answer is, it's not whether or not it's his will or not in this particular case and what you're talking about. Because, you know what I could tell you. Everybody want to know what Yahweh's will is? It's very simple. He wants you to go from where you are into the kingdom, observing his commandments and changing it to Yeshua. Everything else is up to you. In other words, your desire to have a certain career or a certain level of finance or a certain level of lifestyle or a certain car or a certain this or a certain that, or this many kids, it's not, Yahweh doesn't care about all that stuff. His will is that you change into him, and in that journey to get into the kingdom, you guard, keep, and observe his commandments. That's his will. Now, he may allow certain things to happen to you. He may cause certain things to happen to help keep you along the line to kind of, if you drift off here or there, or to inspire you when you go the correct way. But when you're talking about things like this, it's not the same as this. This here, what we're reading, Yahweh told them, this is your land, I'm giving it to you, go. Yahweh didn't say that about anything you're about to do, okay? Now, it's something that you could see that it could be beneficial, and that it could serve certain purposes for Yahweh, that's great. But what we're talking about is still doesn't fall into you can absolutely guarantee and trust that Yahweh's going to keep you safe. I hate to say that to you. See, she already told you that he's not going to always give you the answer you want. I believe that he has an idea of the things that you're going to go through, and I think you're going to be fine. Okay? Now, that being said, it's not that Yahweh, like he said to them here, I told you the land is yours. I told you to go in. Why wouldn't you just trust me? Because that is my will. I told you to do this. Okay? Yahweh didn't tell you to do the things you're planning to do. They just need to get done, right? Okay?
So this is like the what kind of car do I want kind of a
This
thing.
is more like a what kind of, well, it's even if you want a car. Yeah. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
You're welcome. All right? Now, let me just caveat that a little bit with if you are being called to work for him, like I was, then he may push and close doors in different ways to get you there. You understand what I'm saying? So just because you're struggling in certain areas doesn't mean he's trying to push you into where you're working for him. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that he cares a little bit more, or his will is a little bit more for those that he wants in certain positions in terms of doing his work than it is for everybody else. And that's a very small amount of people. Like the Kohanim, like the Levites had certain jobs to do. That was his will that they do those jobs. It's so much his will that when the temple is rebuilt, they will still be doing that job. Okay? It's his will that only those people do those things. But for everybody else, which is 99.99 whatever percent, his will is that whatever you choose to do, he's watching to see your creativity and your flavor and how you do whatever. But it's just that you are submitted to his commandments, that you're covenanted, and that you take this journey growing into him, into the kingdom. Okay? But all of the little everything else that happen along the way, he's sitting back and enjoying watching, because some of the stuff he's thinking, that was pretty cool. That was kind of creative. That was kind of interesting. He wants to see what you bring to the table. I believe that he does have a role for you when you get there. He may not have a very specific role for you here. And so he's looking to see, what do you bring? What's your personality like? What creative things do you bring to the mix? Maybe you don't bring a lot of creative things, but you bring solidness. Maybe you bring, I don't know, whatever you bring. He just wants to see what you bring to this whole team. You're coming into the team, so to speak. What do you bring to the team? Some of you bring a tremendous empathy and sympathy, and you can sit and talk to people. That's very valuable. Some of you bring a different kind of leadership or strength. Some of you are really great supporters, like Joshua. There's lots of stuff that you bring that's not necessarily working the work necessarily. Some of you are tremendous artistically. Some of you are tremendous musically. Some of you are tremendous technically, like in terms of mechanical things. You know what? There's going to be a lot of rebuilding and stuff going on in the millennium. Some of you guys who are very good, as far as building, there may be, some really cool things you get to build when you have all that power and all that forever suit and everything else. So just keep that in mind as you try to figure out what he has for you, okay? He's watching to see what do you, not whatever he's pushing, what do you bring? Okay? You bring something. Don't sit there saying, I don't bring anything. Well, if that's really true, then I would wake up and try to find out what you can bring. By bring, I don't mean to the ministry and come and call me. I mean, what do you bring to everybody else? What do you bring? When you come here and you interact with each other, what do you bring? Some of you bring a smile. That's good enough to start with. Just bring in smile, bring in sunshine, like the yellow over there. Okay? Okay? Just bring sunshine. But if you look like you're sucking on a pickle, we don't need that in the kingdom. Or in the congregation, for that matter. Okay? All right? They're all sour-faced and everything. All right. Don't see anybody else lined up. Oh, one more. Over there. Okay, Rabbi Tom. Sorry.
Thank you, Rabbi. I was thinking of casualties of war. In a war, of course, we have rockets and planes and missiles and artillery and bombs and all this stuff. Killing a lot of people. Young children, babies, young teenagers, the elderly who are not involved in the fighting, they're just casualties of war. But in 2 and 3, that's not quite the case, where it says under the ban. So we understand that Yahweh said this is what to do, and it had to be done, and if we were there, we'd have to do it. But what do you say to people who read this in the scriptures today and say, oh, they're killing babies and young children and innocent people? That's terrible. What do you say to people?
No, it's really, these are tough things. These are really tough questions.
It's tough.
Yeah, these are tough questions. Look, I would say that part of the answer comes from understanding that they were Yahweh's hand in retribution and bringing justice. So we don't know what those people did to him. That's number one. Number two, well, actually, I should have said this is number one. Us killing somebody just because we want to kill somebody, it's not the same as him killing somebody. Simply from the point of view is that he could always bring them to life in a different arena like the millennium, like the children, the other people that are sort of collateral damage. But here's a reality that we don't necessarily have living here in the U.S., but we certainly have it if you go to some places like Eastern Europe and the Middle East, what you call generational blood feuds or generational hatred. By the way, we see this play out with a certain King Saul who didn't kill all of those he was supposed to with the Amalekites. And they came back to haunt them with Haman, okay? Because they didn't kill all of the children of Amalek. And so that is the problem. The problem is Yahweh knew that if you leave one, Paul, you can grab the mic. He's not on the camera anymore. If you leave one, that one may come back and have retribution. Now, think about like the cities of refuge for that reason, because the revenger of blood. Okay? I'll give you an example. Some of you are old enough, and not just old enough, but pay enough attention to world events, that you can remember when the quote-unquote Iron Curtain came down. Okay? So when the Soviet Iron Curtain came down, do you know what happened almost immediately in Eastern Europe when they pulled back? All the blood feuds reignited. So Serbia, and the Serbians and the Croatians, and they all went, everybody went right after each other because all that stuff had been held flat by the boot of the Soviets. It was forced down. Guess what? As soon as that authority that forced that left, even though it was a long period of time, nobody forgets. Nobody forgets, okay? And so, look, I remember watching a movie. Some of you maybe have seen the movie series Taken. All right, Taken 1, 2, 3, whatever it was. Well, in the, I think it was the second one, or I guess it was the third one. In the third one, the father of the guy that he killed in the second one is coming back to get revenge on him. Or the first one, the guy he killed in the first one, the father comes back in the second one. And then he says to the guy, at the end of it, you need to kill me because I will come after you. I will never stop coming after you. Okay? Because after all, blood feuds go forever. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter that the guy's son was a really terrible person and was doing horrible things, but, he killed him, so the kid's father now wants to kill him. But the kid's father said, I'll never stop coming after you. And then once you kill me, it'll pass to the next guy. So guess what? You kill everybody, it stops. I know that sounds a little bit much, okay? But these things have to be a part of the mix of understanding what's going on there. Hopefully that makes some sense, okay? See, and again, we don't go back in. Some of us come from those cultures, not most of us, though. And we don't know what it's like. But some of you may have, certain families that your family doesn't talk to and hates and whatever because of something that happened 100 years ago and it's never been let go of. The old Hatfields and the McCoy type of thing. All right? Look in Africa, a lot of the tribal stuff has been going on forever. And as long as there's one alive from the one versus the other one, there's a problem. I'm not saying anything about which tribe is right, but we don't hear about this on the news here. There are people murdering the snot out of each other in these countries all the time. Genocidal stuff's happening, but nobody cares. Why? I don't know, maybe because they're black and they don't care, or it's in Africa, they don't care. For whatever reason, we don't hear about it. I'd like to know about it. I care about people. I'd like to know when people are genocidally being wiped out. But it's because of feuds they went back really, probably thousands of years, okay? And that's not gone away. And so, yeah, this problem with the Amalekites and the other ones that he talks about here, there's a reason. We just don't necessarily have the answer. Okay, Dawn.
I just wanted to say, I know now why it's taking so long, because I didn't know who you were, and I didn't know who God was. I did not know who Yeshua was. And he said, just trust me. I said, okay. The okay took a long time, like yesterday. But he did not tell me I was not going back to work again. He just said, just trust me, you're not ready. I know. I said, I look at my body, I look at my mind, I'm not ready. But I will be ready.
Amen.
Because I have the structure that I'm supposed to be in here. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Awesome.
And I just want to say thank you.
No, you're very welcome. And you know what? Yeah. I don't know you that long, but I've seen improvement in the time I've seen you. So it's just a matter of time. You're going to just keep being patient, and you'll go back to work like you want to, and you'll be able to do those things. Because I've already seen a tremendous improvement. Okay?
I have too.
Yeah.
But
I know you. You're such a go-getter. The patience thing is hard because you want to be there yesterday.
I do, but I also am not looking to start back off as an assistant vice president. I know that's not going to be the first thing, but it's going to be the next goal.
Okay, good.
Because of you. Because of him, through you.
Amen.
Through you.
Amen. Amen. Now, I want to share this with some of you out there, okay? Let Dawn be an inspiration. Now, Dawn, she had a very nice job, very high responsible, over a lot of people position, made decent money and the whole thing, and then she had a stroke. And you know what? There's no thought in her head that that's going to slow her down except temporarily. But some of you are thinking, well, I can't do all these things. Well, you didn't have a stroke. All your body parts work properly. Your mind doesn't have issues. And she has issues sometimes where her brain just won't do what she wants it to do and stuff, but it's getting better. It's getting better. Oh, you want to come back up again? All right. You just need the exercise. You could walk your way both ways. Okay, but I want you guys to be inspired to understand. Because some of you would have been like, man, I was on top of the world, and then Yahweh allowed me to have this stroke, and my life is now. All I ever hear out of Dawn is the only frustration she has is it's not starting yet. Okay? She doesn't blame anything. She doesn't whine about anything. She's like, I know that I'm going to get there. Did you give it to her on, Paul?
I do know I'm going to get there, but I also know that I'm my worst enemy. But what I needed to do this walk first. He was not letting me do anything until I got this walk down. Right. And so it took me a long time. And so some people know I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I was going to a presentation. And I couldn't go because I couldn't move. And I was at work. So I knew that there was something that I needed to get done. And I didn't know him. I didn't know him. I did not know his son, not the way that I know now. And so I really appreciate you, my other rabbi, and my elder here. And I know I'm going to go back.
Absolutely.
So I thank all of you all because I care for all of you all. Even if I don't know you as much, yes, sweet girl. Even if I don't know you as much as I know some of the other people, I care for all of you because you're my family. And my family understands it, and they don't understand what I'm doing. And I said, that's fine. I still love you.
Amen. Wait, Dawn, hold on a second. I may want to for another second. Listen, if you know this woman, some of you will have to understand, one of the reasons why I think she believes she'll get to where she wants to go is because she worked for all the things she got up to this point. She has several degrees, has built a career in the area that she was in from scratch and whatever. But I'm just saying is, she already has seen what she's capable of doing and accomplishing. Some of you, your greatest accomplishment is you filled out an application at the job you work at, okay? And maybe got promoted once. But I'm impressed that anybody can get any degree, because that's a lot of work, focus to get. She's got several, all right? And again, the point being, it's the effort and commitment that now she knows, based on what she's already done, there's no doubt I'm going to get this done. Because she had to go over other mountains in the past.
I did, and I chose not to be a physician like my dad. I just said, I don't want to be a physician. I like this part of the medical fair, and that's what I want to do.
Yep.
And he said, okay. He didn't bite my head off because I said I changed my mind about being a physician. I love what I do, and I know I'm going to do it again. And I know I got to get this weight off. I know that's a big problem.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, and that, by the way, took a lot, too, because you came from a family where her father was very successful, and he was a physician and everything else, and he had expectations for her, and she said, Dad, love you, but I'm going to do what I need to do. But she didn't just do it. She did it really well, to the point where she had a very high responsible position over several hospitals and things. But that was something that, again, I know a lot of you have a hard time with this. Part of this depends on you, okay? Okay, and I've said this in the past, and people think I'm offensive to Yahweh, okay? But in a very real way, all this exists because of me. Not just because of me, meaning without him, this wouldn't exist for sure. But I'm saying is, but it also, without me, it wouldn't exist. Okay, I had to put in the 100-hour weeks and all the other things I had to do to build this. You understand what I'm saying? And all the hours of counselings and things that build the family and the structure. And so, which is why I also know if this was taken away, I could do something. As a matter of fact, the hardest thing I would have to do is figure out which of the million somethings I could do. Like, which one should I do? And none of them would intimidate me because I know what I've done. And that's the same thing with Dawn. She knows what she's done. So this probably isn't even the biggest obstacle she's ever overcome. It's just a physical one that's annoying. But let that inspire you that you can go from wherever you are. I know maybe she won't be able to handle the same volume she handled before, but she will get the same position back or better. She hasn't lost anything. I talked to her. She's sharp as anything. But she's gone through what she's gone through, right? And don't you guys tell me, well, with this, that, and the other thing. Okay, anybody that's not self-made, I mean, like you put in the effort, doesn't keep what they get very long. Anything that was handed to anybody, they squander it. So when you see people that are truly successful, they built it themselves. Maybe somebody gave them a start, but you know what? Lots of people get a start and they don't go anywhere. They still had to build it themselves, okay? You can build any life you want to build. Yahweh's there to help you and encourage you. He's not going to do it for you, but he's not going to do anything until you express an interest that that's what you want. No, don't say, I want wealth. What kind of wealth? What do you want to be doing, okay? You can say, I want to be an attorney, a doctor, an engineer, a this or that, or whatever it is you want to be. I want to be a social worker. I want to be a psychologist. I want to be a teacher. I want to own my own company and be CEO. You've got to identify what you want. Look, I can tell you as a parent, Yahweh's a parent. As a parent, you know what I've said to my children 50,000 times? What do you want? Actually, I say it to all of you when we have counseling sessions. But what do you want? But as far as like where they want to go in life, where do you want to go? My daughter is now trying to realize that she may want to try this career or that career, so she talks to me a lot about this stuff. And I'm like, I will encourage and support. I won't do anything for you. I'll encourage and support. But I need to know what I'm encouraging and supporting. What do you want to do? All right? And so then I can help you if you know what you want to do. Because all you parents, listen, this is really important. Yahweh will not, and you should not, for others that you are the parent to, do anything that you should do for you. Okay? Anything that you should do for yourself, he's not going to do. Okay? Period. And I will not do for my children what they should do for themselves, what they should do for themselves. My wife sometimes will be saying, because mothers are different, she'll say, oh, but I feel so bad. That's okay. Stay out of it. You should not involve yourself. But I can make it easier for them. If they ask, maybe. If they don't ask, definitely not. They have to learn. You have to learn to ask Yahweh too. There's times when you should and you don't, or ask the leadership and you don't. Even though we may be aware of something and we sit back going, well, they should ask me. Sometimes you guys know about something and come to me like, well, did you know about so-and-so? And we go, yep. And they look at us like, why aren't you doing anything? Because they haven't asked. And even then, we still might not, because it still might be something they need to do themselves. But they may need someone to tell them, this is yours. You need to figure this out. This is your life, your test, your experience. You need to do it. I'm not going to undermine that experience that you need. People come and ask us for help all the time. I'm never going to help you with stuff you should do yourself. Okay? There's no way. That doesn't help. Not really. It may look like help to you, but it doesn't. I only do for those when they're in situations where they can't, or if they have a short-term, real emergency problem, but I'm only going to fix the short-term problem. They have to fix the longer-term aspects of the problem. That make sense? Yahweh's the same. Yahweh's the same. He is not going to do for you what you can and should. Let me put the word can in there too. Even if it's not a should or shouldn't, if you can do it, he's not doing it for you. But I don't know how. Knowing how is irrelevant. You can figure out how. Do you not understand the world you live in? You can figure out how. You have YouTube, anything you want, you can see somebody doing whatever you want to do and show you how to do it. I didn't have that growing up. I had to go to a library, which I never did because I didn't like to read. I didn't like to sit still and look stuff up, and I claimed I was illiterate. Well, I wasn't, but that was my joke answer, because I didn't want to sit still to read. But boy, you could just ask Siri anything and you can get whatever you want. You need a recipe for something, you need directions somewhere, you need, whatever, a website for that. But see, you're lazy. I'm sorry, did I call you out? You're lazy. Okay, you've got 24 hours in a day. Certain hours are allocated for things. You have at least, let's call it at least out of that 24, at least half of that to do something productive. At least. I would say you have probably more like 16, 8 hours of sleep. I would say even more like 6 hours of sleep, then you have 18 hours to work with. But you got to eat and travel and other things to and from job. So look, but be productive, And some of you there's too many easy, entertaining things out there that are mind-numbing and wasting your time. All right? So anyway. All right, anybody else? Well, that'll do it. 10 o'clock on the nose. That's pretty good. Awesome. See, last time I needed to be done in time for the Zone 3, and I was late. This time, there's no Zone 3, and I'm on time. Okay, so kind of makes sense. All right, so let's go ahead and close in prayer. So if you'll all rise, who we have in close? Okay, Evan, okay. Okay, Evan Crone's going to come up and close us.
All right. Father, thank you for this day and for this set-apart time that we come together once again. I want to give thanks to Rabbi Steve in providing us with this great teaching tonight, and I pray that we can all diligently apply the things we learned into our everyday walk. And lastly, I just pray for all of leadership. I pray that you give them the wisdom, the knowledge, the peace of mind, and more importantly, the commitment as they help guide us as we all walk this out. And I pray for the leadership as they walk it out themselves too. I pray all this in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And here comes a very sleepy Constantine. You guys want to be on camera? Come over here. Hey, Max. All right, here comes Lewis. Yeah, you look sleepy too. No, he looks even more sleepy. And some reason, Adar doesn't look sleepy. Okay. The ever-ready bunny over here. Okay. All right. So everybody wants to be on camera. You'll know you're on camera if you look up at the screen. You'll see if you're on or not. So if you don't see yourself, then you're not on camera. All right. That's very good, except that we're not doing it that way today. Okay, so, all right. For those out there, we want to let them know how much we appreciate them and just share our hearts and our love with them by wishing them a Shabbat Shalom, and we're going to tell them that we love them, okay? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Shabbat